Chapter 116 Kindred Spirits on a Snowy Night, Deep in the Mountains. Guan squatted down, picked the last ephemeral flower from the snow, and threw it into his storage bag. He only harvested one more year of lifespan, but he was not dissatisfied, because this month he had already harvested nearly 500,000 years of lifespan, pushing his total lifespan over 1,000,000 years again. It was so satisfying. After tonight, there would be no more ephemeral flowers on the surface in the Taicang dynasty. In 1 month he had picked over 1,000,000 ephemeral flowers, half of which hadn't even reached a year old, having just sprouted. If Guan didn't pick them, the cultivators of the Taicang dynasty would clear them, so he could only pick them whenever he saw them, gambling on his luck. He couldn't ignore the safety of the world and forbid others from clearing the ephemeral flowers, and he also feared the ephemera sect. He could slowly accumulate lifespan, but if the ephemera sect's plan succeeded and he had no power to resist, he would be ruined. In the dim forest, Guan stretched lazily and then walked towards the nearby city. It was almost dawn and he planned to stroll around the city. Being cooped up in Medicine Valley all the time wasn't good. Occasionally getting out to see the scenery and the sights of the exotic realms could help him gain insights. Since he encountered Wu Ju's path enlightenment, Guan had been pondering enlightenment. He felt that enlightenment relied not only on opportunity but also on life experiences. The sun gradually rose. The city 100 miles away began to stir with noise, signaling the start of a new day. At noon, Guan sat in the second-floor tavern, drinking wine. He sat by the window watching the street below, where martial arts heroes were performing their skills. Where there were people, there was the martial arts world. Even though everyone in the Taicang dynasty knew about the existence of immortal cultivation, 90% of people couldn't cultivate, which led to the birth of the martial arts world. They stood apart from the immortal cultivation world, having their own excitement and grievances. In the entire city, Guan only sensed 3 other cultivators and like him they were pretending to be ordinary people. The immortal cultivation world was facing the threat of the ephemera sect, with countless demons eyeing them greedily outside the 9 dynasties, while the ordinary people lived unaffected. Most of them only lived for a few decades, and by the time their lives ended, the great demon calamity might not have even arrived. This was the difference between immortals and mortals. Cultivators and mortals lived under different time rules. As Guan contemplated the difference between immortals and mortals, many emotions surged in his heart. He wanted to see if he could enter a state of enlightenment through such reflections. However, he sat there all day without entering the state of enlightenment, but he didn't feel it was a waste of time. Sitting quietly sometimes, not speaking, and experiencing the countless facets of the mortal world had its own unique pleasure. Dusk settled again, and the snow that had stopped for a day began to fall once more. Guan stood up, left some silver coins and then departed. He didn't leave the city directly but started to wander the streets, mingling with the crowds, letting the snow fall on him, immersing himself in the mortal world's hustle and bustle. Only at dawn the next day did Guan return to the valley. When he reached the 3rd Medicine Valley, he saw disciples gathered together, chattering excitedly. From a distance, he heard the disciples discussing the Supreme Elder. A Supreme Elder had returned. This news shook the entire Supreme sect. The identity of the Supreme Elder, who had lived for 1,500 years with cultivation reaching the heavens, had been revealed. At the moment, the Supreme sect was facing the threat of the ephemera sect, and the return of the Supreme Elder had greatly boosted the sect's morale. The righteous sect of the world regained its domineering aura. This Supreme Elder's title was Mystic Spring, also known as Shen Quan. Guan guessed that he had returned because the Supreme sect informed him that ancestor Shen Tian had been killed by the ephemera sect. After listening for a while, Guan continued to pick medicinal herbs. As he picked the herbs, he was still contemplating the insights from the past 2 days. Although he hadn't entered a state of enlightenment, his mystic heart had gained another talisman. The mystic heart could gather divine skills, and Guan at the Mahayana realm 9 layers had a divine skill brewing. Condensing divine skills depended not on cultivation level but on insights. He already had an idea, and as he continued to perfect it, the divine skill would naturally form. 3 days later, Guan arrived at the Outer Sect's book collection hall, where Elder Lu often personally received him as always. After not seeing him for several months, Guan noticed that he had aged significantly, his complexion also declining. Elder Lu, Foundation Establishment Realm 9th Layer 258/270/340. Looking at the other's lifespan, Guan sighed internally. Elder Liu's cultivation level was obviously elevated by elixirs, so his lifespan was shorter than those of the same realm. Having known each other for many years, their relationship had become profound beyond the bounds of age. Guan couldn't help but feel melancholic about his old friend's impending departure. However, he had long been prepared for this. He would eventually say goodbye to everyone around him. The path to longevity was destined to be lonely. Even if he found a way to extend the limit of lifespan in the future, it would just be an improvement. Making people immortal was incredibly difficult, and Guan couldn't transfer his lifespan to others. This anticipated loneliness didn't sadden Guan. Instead, it made him more resolute. The more so, the more he wanted to live on. He wanted to see the mortal world after 10,000 years, the splendors of 10 million years, and the vicissitudes of hundreds of millions of years. Elder Lu, this is the last volume of the Supreme Immortal Venerable. Guan took a book out of his storage bag and smiled. Elder Lu took the book and curiously asked, "I thought you would wait a few more years. How did it come out so soon?" The story needed to end, and coincidentally, it concludes with the protagonist joining forces with the people of the world to slay the demon and bring peace. Doesn't this align perfectly with the current world situation? Guan smiled. He paused for a moment and then said, "Although my qualifications are mediocre and I lack the strength to change the world, if I can inspire the people's fighting spirit, it will be a small contribution." Elder Lu did not open the book but praised, "Your books have already influenced many people. Before you, cultivators rarely read outside their practice. The name Pan has taken on the aura of a sage." Elder Lu, you're exaggerating. Haha, what are you writing next? I don't plan to write anything for now. I will see what the future holds. Indeed, a masterpiece often comes about by chance and cannot be forced. The two chatted casually, with Elder Lu reminiscing about their first meeting. Guan listened intently and responded just as earnestly. After talking for 2 ancient hours, Elder Lu suddenly said, "Once the final volume of Supreme Immortal Venerable is arranged, I will resign from the elder position and prepare to leave the Supreme Sect to revisit my hometown. It has been 240 years since I joined the sect. I wonder if my hometown has changed." He already sensed his imminent end. People often wish to return to their roots before they die. Guan couldn't help but think of Qing Xiandan, who also left alone before his end. "I wish Elder Lu a smooth journey." Guan smiled gently as if unaware of Elder Liu's impending end. After bidding farewell to Elder Lu, Guan went to the Elixir Hall. He did not enter the hall but stood in the street looking at its sign. Because of Elder Lu, he thought of Zhu Qinglu. Zhu Qinglu, an elder of the Elixir Hall, was also responsible for liaising with Guan. He too did not have many years left to live. This indicated that in the coming years, Guan would continuously say goodbye to old friends. In this place, Guan entered a state of selflessness. He didn't know how much time had passed. Suddenly, Guan awoke, his vision returning, seeing a disciple standing in front of him. It was none other than Wu Ju, who had previously achieved path enlightenment. "Brother, are you all right?" Wu Ju asked cautiously. He had passed by and was drawn by Guan's state, suspecting that Guan had entered a state of enlightenment similar to his own. As he got closer, he realized it was the disciple he had encountered the day his own enlightenment ended. Fate was indeed wondrous. That day this disciple witnessed his enlightenment. Today he witnessed the disciple's enlightenment. Wu Ju developed a fondness for Guan and had been guarding nearby to avoid interruption. He had stood for quite a while. When Guan suddenly opened his eyes, he thought he might have disturbed him and felt a bit uneasy. Guan had indeed entered a state of enlightenment earlier, and his mystic heart had gained another talisman. He looked at Wu Ju and smiled, "I'm fine. Have we met before?" Wu Ju smiled and said, "Yes, back then I was under the tree and you asked if I was alright just like how I am asking you now." Guan cast a lifespan detection on him. Wu Ju, Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer 63/280/1040? How did he gain another 500 years? Had this guy recently achieved enlightenment again? Who was this person really? This was ridiculously extraordinary. Han Ming had only achieved enlightenment once in his life, yet Wu Ju had done it twice in 2 months? You must have entered a state of enlightenment just now. Shall we find a place to talk? Wu Ju invited him eagerly. Guan didn't refuse as it suited him well. Then he followed Wu Ju to his private courtyard. After closing the door, they sat down to converse. Wu Ju became quite enthusiastic, actively sharing his experiences. He had been an orphan since childhood, brought to the Supreme Sect by his master. His master, an outer disciple, found him hanging on a tree while on a mission. His parents had abandoned him but didn't want him to be eaten by wild beasts, so they hung him on the tree. In the supreme sect, Wuju's spirit root qualification was mediocre, but under his master's protection he had a good life. It wasn't until recently that his master was killed by a cultivator of the ephemera sect on a mission, news he got from his master's companion. He felt as if the sky had fallen. The very next day the ephemera sect attacked. Watching the cultivators fight, Wuju was perplexed, not understanding why people had to fight to the death. In his confused state he achieved enlightenment. After sharing his story, he looked at Guan and asked, "Brother Gu, what led to your enlightenment?" Guan replied, "My enlightenment was also related to life and death. An old friend I've known for decades is approaching his end." He spoke calmly, but Wu Ju sensed that he must have been deeply saddened. However, the reason for Guan's enlightenment made Wu Ju feel a deeper connection with him. "Brother Gu, don't share your enlightenment experience with others. After my enlightenment, I found that my energy absorption speed increased, and even my comprehension improved. My master always taught me to be humble and keep things to myself," Wu Ju said earnestly. Guan nodded, smiling inwardly. It seemed Wu Ju's master was someone with similar beliefs. But he thought Wu Ju's enlightenment wasn't simply due to sudden clarity. Enlightening twice because of his master's death? It didn't make sense. Chapter 117. Kill him using a sword? Guan exchanged epiphanies with Wu Ju, talking all the way until the next morning. Both of them benefited greatly. Before parting, Wu Ju reminded him once again not to reveal their epiphany to others. Seeing Wu Ju's caution, Guan smiled and promised. Wu Ju watched Guan leave, a smile spreading on his face. Having lived in the Supreme Sect for so many years, Guan was his first true friend. He had always been very self-conscious and didn't dare to communicate with others much. The only one he was close to was his master, so his master's death was a great blow to him. Wu Ju turned back to his room to continue cultivating, while looking forward to his next exchange with Guan. Guan stayed in the city for an hour before returning to the third medicine valley. After inspecting the valley, he hurriedly left again. After spending a short while in Mystic Valley, he came to the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. The Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion already had a lot of medicinal herbs planted, but it was still far from being filled. Guan planned to plant herbs above the 5th rank here, as it was his private territory, a place truly unknown to anyone. Though Jiang Qiong and Sky Dragon knew about the 8 scenic caves, only he knew about the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. During the planting process, he felt the presence of a battle coming from the north. The aura of the 9 Nether Road was still there, lasting for several months. The 9 dynasties continuously sent cultivators to fight, temporarily curbing the chaos caused by the ephemera sect. This was normal. If the strength of the ephemera sect far surpassed the 9 dynasties, they would have swept across them long ago. Guan did not pay attention to the distant battle and focused on planting herbs. He could stay overnight at the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion, as it was already the end of the month. If Liya wanted to contact him, he could not afford to miss it. Since Guan and Liya made the agreement, Liya didn't appear on a mountain top at the end of the month to reveal his aura, possibly due to circumstances beyond his control. Yet Guan was not anxious. He would come to the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion at the end of every month and use his divine sense to search for Liya's aura in the north. Thus, Guan finished planting all the seeds he brought and set up a formation. When night fell, he performed the 9 extremes yin-yang body, transforming into a shadow and heading north. Under the night sky, Liya, carrying the North Sea heavy sword, reached the mountain top. He looked ahead. The mountains stretched endlessly. The night sky was covered with dark clouds, obscuring the stars and moon. How far is this place from the North Sea mountains? I wonder if the primordial ancestor can find me, Liya thought worriedly. The old ancestor's voice sounded in his mind. The great cultivators of the 9 dynasties continue to appear, yet they cannot budge that female cultivator. When the main branch of the ephemera sect arrives, it will be even more dangerous. Even if the primordial ancestor comes, he cannot turn the tide. He too acknowledged that Guan was the primordial ancestor of the Li family, but he had no confidence in the ancestor. The primordial ancestor's cultivation level was higher than his own when he was alive, but the main branch of the ephemera sect also had such people, and not just one. After hearing this, Liya fell silent. He turned his head, spreading his divine sense, fearing that followers of the ephemera sect were tracking him. After confirming no one was following him, Liya put down the heavy sword and sat cross-legged. He placed the heavy sword on his legs, carefully stroking it, feeling the blade. He had already mastered a trace of the Taicang Divine shocking sword intent. The longer he delved into it, the more profound he found the swordsmanship. Once it was fully mastered, he would be unrivaled in his realm and even capable of cross-realm battles. The cold wind blew. Though there was no flying snow, it was still bone-chillingly cold. It was unclear how much time had passed. A figure appeared behind Li Ya, silently watching him. It was Guwen, using the 9 extremes yin-yang body, observing Li Ya's swordsmanship accomplishments. Not bad, he didn't waste the swordsmanship accomplishment he had left behind. He is here, the old ancestor's voice sounded in Li Ya's ear with a complex tone. Upon hearing this, Li Ya opened his eyes and turned his head. As soon as he saw Guwen, he immediately stood up and saluted him with the North Sea heavy sword in hand. Now he could lift the North Sea heavy sword with one hand. Greetings, primordial ancestor. Regarding the title Li Ya used, Guwen couldn't bother to explain. As long as Li Ya didn't guess his real identity, it was fine. Tell me about the Ephemera sect, Guwen said, his voice as usual with a changed tone. Li Ya began reporting the situation. Currently, all the followers of the Ephemera sect were gathered at the entrance of the 9 Nether Road, numbering over 1 million. Every one of the Ephemera sect's followers bore the Ephemera seal, causing those wavering cultivators to be unable to escape. He mentioned the Ephemera tree. Nearly every day, cultivators went to fight against the Ephemera sect and ultimately died, becoming nutrients for the Ephemera tree. Speaking of this tree, the fearless Li Ya's face too showed a trace of fear. Guwen wasn't concerned about these. He was only curious about the strength of the strongest person in the main branch of the Ephemera sect. Unfortunately, Li Ya didn't know either. After talking for half a day, it was all about the battles around the Ephemera tree, without mentioning the situation inside the 9 Nether Road. I wondered why you came out secretly. Turns out it was to pass on information. It seems your backer is also helpless and unable to respond to you. A contemptuous laugh echoed, startling Li Ya. His face turned pale. He looked behind Guwen, only to see a scholar-dressed traveler of graceful crane walking out from the forest. Guwen, with his back towards him, did not turn around. Shadow magic skill, I wonder which master from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion you are? Traveler of graceful crane asked with a smile as he took off the book box behind him, placed it in front, and began to search inside it. Before Guwen spoke, Li Ya anxiously shouted, Primordial ancestor, he is Traveler of graceful crane. It's him who previously captured my old ancestor's soul. He is very strong, you must not be careless. Guwen turned his head slightly, glancing at Traveler of graceful crane. Traveler of graceful crane, Unification Realm 9th Layer 1209/3020/3030 Unification Realm 9th Layer, no wonder he spoke so arrogantly. With such cultivation he could indeed roam freely in the Taicang dynasty. Guwen slowly turned around, looking at Traveler of graceful crane rummaging through his things, not in a hurry, watching him perform. A Grand Unification Realm 9th Layer cultivator needed to search for something by hand? This guy clearly thought he had Guwen in the palm of his hand, deliberately messing with Guwen and Li Ya's minds. Primordial ancestor? So you are family. In that case, I'll torture you to death in front of him to put an end to his wild thoughts, Traveler of graceful crane sneered coldly. Upon hearing this, Li Ya immediately moved to stand beside Guwen, offering the North Sea heavy sword to him. To kill him, do I need a sword? Guwen's hoarse voice sounded, making Li Ya pause, causing Traveler of graceful crane to halt his search. Traveler of graceful crane looked up at Guwen. The two stood on a slope, with Guwen standing higher. He couldn't see Guwen's true face, but for some reason looking at the opponent's posture gave him an uneasy feeling in his heart. He suddenly pulled out a scroll from the book box. When the scroll unfurled, terrifying magma erupted, blocking out the sky and blotting out the sun with a mighty force. Li Ya stood dazed, unable to react. Guwen swiftly raised his right hand, flicking his finger to release a beam of light. It pierced through the terrifying magma, forcefully piercing Traveler of graceful crane's throat, blood spurting from the back of his neck. Traveler of graceful crane's eyes widened in disbelief. As his body leaned backward, a foot stepped on his back. Boom! The mountain quaked. Under Li Ya's watchful eyes, the formidable Traveler of graceful crane, who once made him despair, was trampled under the foot of the primordial ancestor, stone debris flying everywhere. Ugh! Traveler of graceful crane spat out a mouthful of reverse blood, desperately finding his spiritual power suppressed within his body, incapable of manifesting outside or casting spells for escape. He had never felt such suppression. Even a great mystic heart realm cultivator couldn't suppress him like this. Could it be that he had reached above the 5th level of the mystic heart realm? Traveler of graceful crane felt an absurdity. Boom! 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 Guan started stomping foot by foot on Traveler of Graceful Crane's back. More blood pooled beneath him, forming cracks in the mountain surface. Shrouded in dark purple demonic chi, Guan appeared like a demon god from the netherworld. Even Leia couldn't help but feel a tinge of fear in his heart. The primordial spirit of the old ancestor within him was also silent. After 9 stomps, Traveler of Graceful Crane had lost his combat ability. Guan's right foot ignited with Taicang True Fire, attaching it to Traveler of Graceful Crane's body. He then stepped back, using his left hand to capture Traveler of Graceful Crane's primordial spirit, while his right hand picked up the book box beside him. Traveler of Graceful Crane's body was swiftly incinerated to ashes. Guan's figure vanished, leaving only a sentence: "From now on, survive at your best. There's no need to seek me out again." Leia stood on the slope, gazing at the ashes of Traveler of Graceful Crane, speechless for a long time. After quite a while, he couldn't help but ask in his mind, "Do you still think the primordial ancestor has no chance against the main branch of the Ephemera sect?" The old ancestor didn't respond. Inside the Mystic Heaven Cave mansion, Guan sat at a stone table, performing the soul-capturing skill on Traveler of Graceful Crane's primordial spirit. Indeed, Traveler of Graceful Crane was not from the 9 dynasties. He came from the main branch of the Ephemera sect, having arrived early on. 300 years ago, the main branch of the Ephemera sect descended upon the land of the 9 dynasties. He and several fellow disciples scattered. The others enacted the primary branch's major plan, searching for suitable puppet sects, while he traveled alone, seeking immortal opportunities. His actions were unique due to his core disciple status within the primary branch, possessing a prestigious background. 200 years ago he encountered the mighty LV Badian, realizing he wasn't an opponent, so he avoided it, hiding away for 200 years. The main branch of the Ephemera sect came to the land of the 9 dynasties knowing it would be devoured by demons. In their view, the human race here was doomed and better be fed to the Ephemera tree. The Ephemera tree craved the spiritual power and flesh of human cultivators. If it could devour the humans of the 9 dynasties, it could transcend the heavenly destiny, reaching the legendary 9th rank. At that time, the Ephemera tree could open the 9 Nether Road anytime, providing convenience for the primary branch of the Ephemera sect to act, traveling wherever they wanted. Through Traveler of Graceful Crane's memories, Guan learned about the hierarchy within the primary branch of the Ephemera sect. Previously, he had slain Golden Spirit Venerable, one of the 100 venerables within the primary branch, each with a Mystic Heart Realm cultivation level. The master of the primary branch had, 500 years ago, transcended the Mystic Heart Realm to enter the legendary Mahayana realm. In other words, there was only one Mahayana realm cultivator in the primary branch of the Ephemera sect. 500 years could allow that branch master to reach the 9th layer of the Mahayana realm? Guan pondered silently. Several ancient hours later he withdrew his divine sense, then finished Traveler of Graceful Crane off, claiming 209 years of lifespan. Guan's right hand rested on the book box, lightly tapping it with his finger, eyes flickering. No more waiting. Tomorrow he would resolve the Ephemera tree below the 9 Nether Road to prevent any long-term worries. Anyway, if he didn't act, the primary branch of the Ephemera sect wouldn't just let it go. Chapter 118 Sword Venerable Fudao strikes. Wuxian Wasteland. At dawn. Because of the overcast clouds in the sky, this wasteland had never seen the sun or moon. On top of a broken cliff, dozens of cultivators gathered, including Jihan Tian, the vice sect leader of the Supreme Sect. They looked towards the horizon with worry etched on their faces. That female demon is simply too powerful. Without a Mystic Heart Realm cultivator, no matter how many of us join forces, it will be useless. There is no Mystic Heart Realm cultivator in our dynasty. Our sect once had one, but he left 800 years ago and has been hard to find. How many Mystic Heart Realm great cultivators stand behind the Ephemera sect? We have nowhere to go and cannot retreat. They were all leaders of various sects, all at the Unification Realm. Before the Ephemera sect wreaked havoc, each of them was a legendary figure in the 9 dynasties' immortal cultivation world, possessing immense power to turn the tides. Yet now, after gathering for many days, they were at a loss, not daring to act rashly. Many Unification Realm cultivators had already died under the Ephemera tree. Some had acted alone, and they had also launched total assaults, all ending in failure, the terror of the Mystic Heart Realm paralyzing them. Jihan Tian suddenly raised his right hand. A ring on his index finger emitted a shimmering light that penetrated his brow. His face lit up with joy. Then he lowered his right hand and spoke. Everyone, our Supreme Sect's Supreme Elder, Grandmaster Shen Quan, has returned and is on his way here. When he arrives we can follow him in launching an attack. Our Grandmaster Shen Quan has already attained the Mystic Heart Realm. This statement made all the sect leaders look at him with matching excitement and joy. For a moment, the praises for the Supreme Sect rose one after another, making Jihan Tian stand up proudly. Although the Supreme Sect was the strongest sect in the Taicang dynasty, it might not rank among the top 3 within the 9 dynasties. If they could achieve indelible merit in facing the calamity of the ephemera sect, they would surely become famous, attracting more families and cultivators in the future. The atmosphere on the cliff improved, and everyone saw hope in defeating the demon of the ephemera sect. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, under the rolling overcast clouds, hundreds of zhang tall ephemera trees stood like a gigantic demon, towering and ferocious. Vines hung down from the branches of the ephemera tree, most of them with corpses tied to the ends. Some were not completely dead, their bodies trembling slightly, eyes filled with blood, veins bulging in their necks, a pitiful sight. Amid the crowd, Jiang Qiong's delicate brows furrowed as she looked at the hanging cultivators. She couldn't help but touch a blood-colored ephemera seal on her wrist, her heart filled with worry. If this continued, she felt she would either be killed by the 9 dynasties' cultivators or be absorbed by the ephemera tree. She couldn't just sit and wait for death. But what could she do? The ephemera seal restricted her freedom. Jiang Qiong looked at the middle-aged man beside her and transmitted her voice. Father, do you still trust the ephemera sect? The middle-aged man sitting next to her was her father, Jiang Lang, one of the pavilion masters of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. He had not only brought Jiang Qiong but also many disciples to join the ephemera sect. Jiang Lang's face was sullen and he didn't answer. How could he not know he had been played, but what could he do now? There were countless corpses of Unification Realm and Void Crossing Realm cultivators hanging from the ephemera tree. With his abilities, how could he escape? He turned to look in another direction, where 4 cultivators sat on the outskirts of the ephemera sect's million followers, their auras so oppressive that no one dared to act recklessly. At present, only those closely connected to the ephemera sect's higher-ups or trusted individuals could leave. Jiang Lang was neither. He belonged to sect hierarch Zhong Liang. He should have enjoyed authority, but with Zhong Liang's fall, his followers were scattered and imprisoned. Even if accepted, they weren't trusted. Seeing her father's expression, Jiang Qiong knew she couldn't count on him. Indeed, from the beginning the only person she could rely on was herself. Jiang Qiong looked back at the ephemera tree, her gaze becoming resolute. She absolutely couldn't fall here. Just as this thought surfaced, a burst of light illuminated her face, making her eyes widen. Not just her, but everyone was illuminated. The rolling clouds above the ephemera tree suddenly dissipated, revealing a nearly 1,000-mile wide opening, with sunlight and scattered snowflakes falling through. The black-clad woman sitting on the array platform looked up, her eyes flashing sharply through her mask. Not just her, but the 4 great cultivators at the edges of the million-strong ephemera sect also looked up. Under the sunlight, the ephemera tree began to tremble, seemingly disliking the sunlight. Who are you who dares to reveal yourself? The black-clad woman stood up and shouted loudly, her cold voice echoing through the heavens and earth. A figure appeared out of nowhere high above the ephemera tree. It was Guan, performing the 9 extremes yin-yang body. Guan looked down at everyone below, catching sight of Jiang Qiong. From high above, the millions of followers of the ephemera sect looked like prisoners, sitting on the ground, with some cultivators standing on the outskirts, clearly there to guard the seated followers. Trusting the ephemera sect led to such a result. It truly was tragic. Guan swiftly cast lifespan detection on one after another. A 2nd layer Mystic Heart Realm and 4 9th layer Unification Realm. The ephemera tree beneath him had the same limited lifespan as the previous ephemera tree he had seen, and it was only a bit over 500 years old. To grow so quickly, how many people had it consumed? Guan raised his right hand, conjuring a cyan sword shadow in his palm. Bold. The black-clad woman shouted angrily, killing intent flashing through her eyes as she appeared beside Guan in one step, a blood-red sword in her hand, slashing at Guan. The sword strike seemed to unleash thousands of evil ghosts towards Guan, blood light covering the entire sky in an instant. But it was only for an instant. Boom. The black-clad woman was sent flying, crashing through the ground after passing over the heads of 1 million followers, her life or death unknown. This scene shocked everyone. How could it be? Everyone cried out in their hearts. During this time, the black-clad woman had fully demonstrated her immense power, appearing nearly invincible. No matter how strong or renowned the attacking cultivators were, they were easily suppressed by her. Such a powerful being had no way to resist in front of this person? Guan raised his left hand, and his index finger shot out a radiant beam, piercing through the swirling dust towards where the woman had fallen. An alert appeared in front of Guan. You successfully seized 47 years of Night Cultivator Fairies, second layer Mystic Heart Realm, lifespan. Not bad. Guan's left hand reached out again, capturing the Mystic Heart of the Night Cultivator Fairy from afar. The Mystic Heart scattered the rolling dust, fell into his hand, and then he stored it in his storage bag. The 4 ninth layer Unification Realm Great Cultivators guarding the edges of the Million Ephemera Sect followers saw the situation was dire and immediately fled in different directions. Guan raised his hand, pointing 4 times. Breaking Path Divine Light. 4 radiant beams shot out like falling stars. The gazes and divine senses of the million followers couldn't capture their trajectories, but everyone felt those 4 were doomed. The world fell into silence. The Thousand Autumn Pavilion has such a figure, Jiang Lang murmured. He was still in shock. Jiang Qiong was equally frightened. She was secretly glad she hadn't caused trouble in the Thousand Autumn Pavilion earlier. Sequential alerts appeared before Guan. He released the Cyan Sword Shadow in his right hand, pointing the sword tip at the ephemera tree. Feeling the threat, the ephemera tree trembled, releasing the corpses as the vines floated upwards. Under the watch of the million followers of the ephemera sect, a terrifying, twisted face emerged from the main trunk of the ephemera tree. What is that? A demon tree. It really is a demon tree. That face, we were deceived. No? Impossible? A deafening uproar erupted among the million followers. Unlike Jiang Qiong, most had come this far still harboring illusions or needing to cling to hope. Rumble, the ground quaked as enormous vines burst through and struck at Guan, startling the crowd to soar into the sky, with some taking the chance to flee. Yet there were also those, including Jiang Qiong, who courageously charged into the Nine Nether Road. The Cyan Sword Shadow in Guan's palm burst forth with terrifying sword intent, descending like a divine weapon with dazzling light. That sword intent. Sword Venerable Fudao. During her flight, Jiang Qiong looked up at Guan in horror. Sword Venerable Fudao was that powerful. The Cyan Sword Shadow, carrying the sword intent of the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword, fell. Cultivators barely lifted off, were unable to flee the battlefield before the Cyan Sword Shadow descended on the ephemera tree. This time, the sword intent was overwhelming, forcefully suppressing the ephemera tree, reducing it to ashes from top to bottom. The sword shadow hit the ground, shattering it, creating faults spreading rapidly in all directions, resembling an expanding spider web from the sky. Guan watched Jiang Qiong escape into the Nine Nether Road without stopping her. After today, Jiang Qiong would struggle to survive even if she stayed. He sensed dozens of Unification Realm auras rapidly approaching from a distance and immediately vanished. As for the million followers, Guan had considered slaughtering them but feared many, like Yang and I and Li Ya, had been deceived or forced into the sect, making causality too complex, and he feared killing innocents. Wanton slaughter would be no different from the ephemera sect. He didn't want to be seen as a great demon and later besieged by all. Yet even so, his earlier sword had still killed many cultivators. That was not Guan's concern. Everyone must bear the consequences of their choices. Not killing them all was his way of exercising benevolence. Alert after alert appeared madly before Guan, who vanished from the spot. The ground continued to crack, dust rolling into the sky, billowing and vast. Jihan Tian and the others rushed in from afar. The wind mixed with dust blew in their faces, and their divine senses had already detected the destruction of the ephemera tree. Ha! Our Supreme Sect's sword Venerable Fudao has taken action. Jihan Tian couldn't help but laugh loudly, boasting of sword Venerable Fudao's strength. Another Supreme Sect's cultivator? The sect leaders were moved. The previous sword intent had frightened them, making them feel it was impossible to reach such a height in a lifetime of cultivation. After the ephemera sect's destruction, they had to reassess the F. Chapter 119. Sword Venerable's Prestige. Lu Lingzhen's guest Guan walked into Mystic Valley, scanning the disciples' cultivation along the way. He spotted Chu Jingfeng meditating under a tree with a wooden sword standing before him. He suddenly became interested and turned around to walk over. "Brother Chu, what are you doing?" Guan asked curiously. Chu Jingfeng opened his eyes and replied, I'm contemplating my swordsmanship, trying to create a new sword technique. Creating a sword technique? That's amazing. Why are you using a wooden sword? If you need a real sword you can ask me. Guan praised him and then took out a treasure sword from his storage bag. Chu Jingfeng's storage bag had long been confiscated, and the spirit stones he earned doing odd jobs were kept in his house. Facing the gift of the sword, Chu Jingfeng shook his head and said, No need. I want to comprehend pure swordsmanship, deriving it from the heart rather than from the sword itself. It sounded quite profound. Guan put away the sword and said with a smile, If you need anything, just come to me anytime. After speaking, he headed towards his attic. Chu Jingfeng watched Guan's back, sensing his joyful mood. Though he is weak, he is always cheerful. Chu Jingfeng watched Guan's back silhouette silently, feeling a tinge of envy in his heart. Born into a wealthy family, he ended up imprisoned due to the family's power struggle. If he had the choice, he would prefer starting as a servant disciple to avoid heavy burdens. Chu Jingfeng stopped thinking about it and resumed his sword enlightenment. After cultivating Taoist expansion skill, his cultivation level couldn't increase. He was too lazy to practice other spells, deciding to focus solely on sword enlightenment. Just like that mad swordsman Han Ming of Great Yu, who after attaining sword enlightenment, became unstoppable. Elsewhere. Back in his attic, Guan sat at his desk and brought up his attribute panel. His lifespan had skyrocketed by more than 300,000 years. This meant that during the extermination of the ephemera tree, he had killed thousands of ephemera sect cultivators. Guan suddenly understood why there were so many demon cultivators. He tried hard to calm his emotions and maintain his original heart, not falling into the demon path. It's still better to grow flowers and herbs. The lifespan provided by Mystic Heart Realm great cultivators is equivalent to that of 5th-tier medicinal herbs. For him, the benefits of killing enemies were not much different from harvesting herbs and might even invite potential trouble. Guan took out the Green Hero Travelogue to shift his attention. Soon, he immersed himself in the love and grudges between the Green Hero and his beloved. Meanwhile, in the dustless wasteland, many cultivators flew through the air. Some were arriving, others were escorting ephemera sect cultivators away. On a cliff, Jihan Tian stood behind an elder in a white robe, respectfully recounting the earlier battle. That's how it happened, elder. It was all thanks to Sword Venerable Fudao. Who exactly is he among the supreme elders? The Mystic Heart Realm great cultivator had no way to resist him. Jihan Tian asked, trying hard to suppress his excitement. The intervention of Sword Venerable Fudao had thrilled him greatly and made him proud. Recalling the shocked expressions of other sect leaders, he felt immensely satisfied. The elder standing before him, who had just returned, was Supreme Elder Shen Quan. Supreme Elder Shen Quan remained silent, closing his eyes as well. Jihan Tian did not disturb him, thinking that the Supreme Elder was contemplating who Sword Venerable Fudao might be. Little did he know, Supreme Elder Shen Quan was deeply shocked inside. Which Supreme Elder in the Supreme Sect was this powerful? However, he had heard stories of Sword Venerable Fudao upon his return, which at least suggested the other party's heart was aligned with the Supreme Sect, most likely being a member, though not a Supreme Elder. He had encountered similar situations overseas, where extraordinary talents would emerge in those super sects, stepping forward during the sect's crisis. This was known as the sect's great fortune. Could it be that the Supreme Sect also had such great fortune? Supreme Elder Shen Quan slowly opened his eyes and said, Sword Venerable Fudao hides his identity because he doesn't want to be disturbed. The more this is the case, the less we should probe into his identity. We should even find ways to protect his information. But his achievements must be widely publicized to strengthen his sense of belonging to the Supreme Sect. Otherwise, over time he may leave, feeling that the Supreme Sect has no benefits for him and only drags him down. Elder, I think the same. I've already sent a message to the sect leader, asking him to publicize this matter, Jihan Tian said with a smile. The Supreme Sect had survived another catastrophe. According to ancient laws, it would rise triumphantly after a disaster. Go about your business. They'll check the entrance to 9 Nether Road. Perhaps this path could become an opportunity for the Supreme Sect. After saying this, Supreme Elder Shen Quan vanished into thin air. Jihan Tian turned around and left, preparing to discuss with other sects how to handle 9 Nether Road. As the year's end approached, Guan went to the outer gate city to find Wu Ju, bringing wine and roasted chicken. Seeing him, Wu Ju was delighted, pulling him inside. After closing the door, Wu Ju excitedly said, Brother Gu, why are you here? This was the first time anyone had voluntarily visited him. How could he not be happy? Just to see you, fearing you might be bored. Guwen replied with a smile, though he truly wanted to see if Wuju had had any further enlightenment. Unfortunately, he had not. Guwen wished to witness Wuju's continuous enlightenment, surpassing the Supreme Sect's geniuses. For him, enlightenment was optional. After all, he could increase his lifespan through other means. He considered enlightenment out of boredom and to see if he could find a way to help extend the lifespan of those around him. So far, enlightenment seemed quite difficult, not achievable merely through deep experiences or rich emotions. Wuju placed bowls and chopsticks on the table, while Guwen set down the wine and roasted chicken, observing the room and noting no changes. Wuju's cultivation had risen from Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd layer at the end of his enlightenment to Foundation Establishment Realm 4th layer. How long had it been? His talent seemed higher than that limited by extreme longevity? Judging by his living environment, it appeared Wuju had not sought another master. By the way, have you heard about Sword Venerable Fudeo's deeds? He single-handedly defeated the Ephemera sect, unbelievably. Thousands of fellow sects couldn't vanquish that demon, but he killed it in 2 moves. He's even more impressive than Guyu from the Supreme Immortal Venerable. While pouring wine for Guwen, Wuju said with a smile. The Supreme Sect was already abuzz with Sword Venerable Fudeo's legend, and not just Wuju, servant disciples from the 3rd Medicine Valley and Mystic Valley were discussing it. Visiting Qinya Valley a few days ago, Luo Hun had also inquired about this. Of course I've heard, truly impressive. I wonder what he's like in person, Guwen said with a laugh. The two began discussing Sword Venerable Fudao, toasting back and forth, quickly finishing a jar of wine. Wuju pulled out a secret book from his pocket, saying, "Brother Gu, this is a fist technique I exchanged for all my savings. Take a look and practice it when you get home." Guwen hurriedly refused. "How can I accept this? No, I can't take advantage of you." "What do you mean, take advantage? You're my only friend, and learning some combat techniques is never a bad thing. I've come to realize that the immortal cultivation world is rarely peaceful for decades, with conflicts between righteous and demonic paths erupting frequently," Wuju said earnestly. Hearing this, Guwen had no choice but to accept. He began to read through the fist technique. Sunset Fist. After a quick look, Guwen memorized it all and returned the secret book to Wuju. Wuju was stunned, asking, "So quickly? You don't like it?" Guwen replied, "I'm not fond of fighting. This fist technique is too aggressive for me." Wuju smiled wryly. "When cultivators fight, it's a matter of life and death unless you stay in the Supreme Sect forever." "Haha, I really want to stay here forever." "Fine then." Not wanting to take advantage of him, Guwen took out a swordsmanship book, saying, "I have a sword technique here, would you like to see?" "No need. Though I respect Sword Venerable Fudao, I don't like using swords. Or rather, I don't like using magic artifacts in battle. I only trust my fists and feet." Wuju waved his hand, displaying his muscular arm. Guwen chuckled and took out the Gale Shadowless Leg secret book, saying, "How about this one?" Wuju glanced at it, instantly unable to look away. "It sounds impressive, must be valuable?" "No worries, take it. If you become important in the Supreme Sect one day, don't forget about me," Guwen said. Hearing this, Wuju hesitated no longer, eagerly taking the book and reading it intently. Guwen picked up his wine bowl, gazing at the focused Wuju. Who could imagine his demeanor 1,000 years from now? With the arrival of spring, the snow season extended, not ceasing even by the time of the spring festival. The 3rd Medicine Valley became lively, with the attic area adorned with lanterns and festive decorations. The disciples were busy, their faces beaming with smiles. Guwen sat at a long table in the courtyard, watching the bustling disciples with a smile. Having many people was good, no need for him to toil. Guwen glanced at Lu Lingjun, who was making paper cuts among the female disciples, looking virtuous and gentle, contrasting her Unification Realm 9th layer cultivation level. Xiaochuan approached excitedly. "Senior brother, they're building a statue of Sword Venerable Fudao next to the Heavenly Repair platform. It's grand. You must see it next time you go." He had also started cultivating the Taoist expansion skill, though less enthusiastically than Chu Jingfeng or Lu Jiujia. He had accepted his aptitude and enjoyed life honestly. Guwen could only respect this, as forcing cultivation was not possible. Besides, practicing the skill seriously only delayed aging, not prevented it. "Is that so? I should indeed take a look." Guwen raised his eyebrows and smiled. The Supreme Sect's attitude pleased him, giving him due respect. Xiaochuan continued narrating changes in the outer gate as Guan sensed LV Badian flying over. Soon LV Badian landed. Xiaochuan immediately got up and left, not daring to intrude. "Let's talk inside," LV Badian said, making his way into the attic. Lu Lingjun glanced over, curious. What was Guan's true identity? Why did this Unification Realm 9th layer great cultivator constantly seek him? Could Guan be hiding his cultivation, not as weak as he appeared? These thoughts swirled in Lu Lingjun's mind, urging her to find an opportunity to talk with Xiaochuan. Meanwhile, inside, Guan shut the door and LV Badian placed a restriction, then sat down asking, "There's a great opportunity, do you want it?" Chapter 120 Sword Intent shocks the sect. No. Guan refused outright, thinking, how could the Supreme Sect have any opportunities after just experiencing a calamity? LV Badian was stunned for a moment, not expecting such a blunt refusal. Instantly annoyed, he said, "You brat, I haven't even told you what the opportunity is." Guan sat down and said, "I won't be the sect leader, I won't write books, and I won't entertain disturbances from the holy sons or holy daughters anymore." LV Badian laughed in anger after hearing that. "In your eyes, am I that kind of person? I just don't want trouble, did I wrong you? If so, I apologize," Guan said seriously. LV Badian's face froze, then he gave a faux cough and said, "Naturally you have wronged me. I came to find you for other matters." "What matters?" "You must have heard of the Nine Nether Road. It has now been sealed off by the 9 dynasties working together, with each sect sending cultivators to guard it. Even the main lineage of the Ephemera sect would find it hard to shake. Now the sects of the 9 dynasties are leading disciples to train on the 9 Nether Road, where demons roam freely. You can kill demons and seize treasures. Moreover, the spiritual energy is rich, making it suitable for cultivation." LV Badian spoke slowly, which indeed surprised Guan. He hadn't expected the 9 Nether Road to be turned into a training ground like a secret realm. Guan asked, "Isn't the 9 Nether Road supposed to be dangerous?" "It is dangerous, so great cultivators will lead the disciples for training. I want to give you a spot so that when you enter the 9 Nether Road, someone will protect your life. You can cultivate, kill demons, or search for treasures. No matter what you do, someone will have your back. Isn't that a great opportunity? Furthermore, the Supreme Sect plans to build a city inside the 9 Nether Road for disciples to rest and cultivate." LV Badian spoke passionately, full of ambition. He believed that if he developed the 9 Nether Road well, the Supreme Sect would soar to new heights, possibly entering its most prosperous period ever, and his status in the sect's history would rise accordingly. Guan listened carefully and thought it indeed seemed feasible. LV Badian seemed intent on changing a long-standing trend where cultivators would leave the 9 dynasties' lands after reaching the Unification Realm to seek opportunities elsewhere. LV Badian wanted to enhance the foundation of the Supreme Sect, making it stronger so future disciples wouldn't need to venture out for opportunities. The 9 Nether Road was his first step. He also planned to establish a sea route, led by the newly returned elder Shen Quan. He spoke more and more passionately, almost declaring his intention to unify the continent. Guan listened with great interest, admiring LV Badian's vision. The stronger the Supreme Sect, the better it would be for him to benefit from its shade. After a long while, LV Badian finally ended his endless speech and looked at Guan asking, "So, will you go?" Guan shook his head and said, "I won't go. I need to stay and look after the Medicine Valley. Someone else can look after it as well. No, I can't relax. Honestly, I'm scared. I always feel the 9 Nether Road is very dangerous and my combat ability is weak. I won't go. How about this, I give my spot to someone else, is that okay?" "You don't want to go, yet you want to give away your spot?" "I have contributed to the Supreme Sect too. This huge Medicine Valley, I didn't embezzle anything. Shouldn't you reward me?" Looking at Guan's righteous look, LV Badian shook his head and smiled. After thinking about it, he still agreed to Guan's request. Giving the spot to someone close to Guan would still increase Guan's sense of belonging to the Supreme Sect. LV Badian didn't believe he couldn't hand off the sect leader position. He was determined to give it to Guan. In the long run, Guan would eventually accept it. Thinking of this, LV Badian smiled, filled with anticipation. "How do you think the Supreme Sect can become the #1 sect of the 9 dynasties?" LV Badian suddenly asked, wanting to test Guan while guiding him toward the mindset of a sect leader. Guan answered directly, "Using force won't work. It easily accumulates hatred. We can use cultural infiltration. Just like the previous Outer Sect conference, the Supreme Sect could host various conferences in the future, such as formation, alchemy, sword competition, talisman crafting, etc. We should strive to make the Supreme Sect hold grand events that attract the attention of the 9 dynasties every few years. The initial investment might be huge, but once people get used to it, they will gradually recognize the Supreme Sect as the orthodox sect. Imagine if you just stepped onto the path of the sword cultivator and heard that the Supreme Sect sword competition was a must-attend event, an opportunity to make a name for oneself. You would subconsciously think that the Supreme Sect holds a high position in the sword Tao. When people frequently mention the Supreme Sect, or when the Supreme Sect becomes the most frequently mentioned sect by the populace, the Supreme Sect won't be far from becoming the greatest sect. Of course, the sect's own strength is the most important. Guan spoke eloquently. After hearing LV Baitian's long talk, he decided to pontificate. LV Baitian soon became absorbed in listening, and seeing him paying close attention, Guan became even more enthusiastic, discussing the details. It couldn't just be competitions of strength, it would be best to have other competitions of skills. These events could be held in different outer sect and inner sect cities, driving the economic development of these cities. He even proposed establishing various societies among the disciples, such as the Elixir Society and Swordsman Society, to facilitate disciple exchanges and allow disciples with leadership skills to hone their abilities. LV Baitian was astonished. This boy writing Investiture of the Gods wasn't a coincidence. He truly had great talent inside. After Guan finished speaking, LV Baitian drank a bowl of tea in one go, feeling invigorated. LV Baitian looked at him intently and said, "And you say you're not fit to be the sect leader?" Guan waved and said, "I don't have the qualifications to be the sect leader. I don't have an illustrious background, nor do I have the courage or boldness to implement grand plans. At most, I can offer some advice. Execution is the hardest part. Guan would never be sect leader." LV Baitian smiled and then began to ask questions about the strategies Guan had just mentioned, with Guan patiently answering. An hour passed before they both walked out of the pavilion. LV Baitian followed Guan, still savoring Guan's ideas. As soon as they went downstairs, he bid farewell, saying he wasn't in the mood for festivities. Guan didn't try to persuade him to stay. Without LV Baitian around, the festive atmosphere in the Third Medicine Valley became even more relaxed. After the new year, the matter of training on the 9 Nether Road quickly spread throughout the Supreme Sect. Treasures, heavenly materials, demon cores, spiritual energy, all kinds of benefits of the 9 Nether Road began to spread wildly. It was obvious that LV Baitian, heeding Guan's advice, focused on publicizing the specific benefits of the opportunities, stirring up the enthusiasm of the disciples and enhancing their sense of belonging to the sect. In the Law Enforcement Hall, Yilan was summoned to meet with the Elder of the Law Enforcement Hall. The Elder of the Law Enforcement Hall smiled and said, "Yilan, the higher-ups have assigned you a spot for the 9 Nether Road. You are quite impressive. Don't worry, the Law Enforcement Hall won't mistreat you. We will help you better enter the 9 Nether Road." Yilan froze. The 9 Nether Road? The first person she thought of was Guan. Even though she had been rooted in the Law Enforcement Hall for years, opportunities like the 9 Nether Road were far beyond her reach. She had heard that the first batch of spots for the 9 Nether Road was limited to only 200, and the outer sect hardly had any chance. The corners of Yilan's mouth lifted. She felt no burden about being taken care of by Guan, only surprise and sweetness. "Senior brother, it seems you still have me in your heart even if you are stubborn with words." Yilan understood Guan's thoughts. Romantic relationships could indeed hinder cultivation. Precisely because of this, she wanted to seize every opportunity to become stronger, proving her determination to her senior brother. Winter passed and spring came, bringing the awakening of all things. Time reached early March. In the Third Medicine Valley, Guan squatted by the Heavenly Spirit Pond formed by Heavenly Spirit water. He had just released a batch of carp into it and was watching them swim freely to see if they could absorb the spiritual energy of the pond. Lu Lingjun stood beside him and said, "If raised like this, they might develop spiritual wisdom. Will the Heavenly Spirit water continue to expand?" Guan asked curiously. Lu Lingjun replied, "With the amount of water I have given you, it should reach a diameter of 10 zhang." Hearing this, Guan thought it was a bit small. Just as he was about to speak, suddenly a sword intent came from afar, alarming the sky. Lu Lingjun's expression changed slightly. She turned her head, frowning. Guan looked up and saw thunderclouds rapidly rolling in the sky, heading towards the inner sect. The sword intent of the Taicang Divine shocking sword. Guan could feel in Hao's presence. Good boy, he's already mastered the sword intent of the Taicang Divine shocking sword so quickly. Guan felt both gratified and a bit shocked. And Hao's talent was truly extraordinary. Lu Lingjun said in surprise, "This sword intent is similar to that left by Sword Venerable Fu Dao on the Heavenly Repair platform, but it's far less grand. Could it be that a disciple of Sword Venerable Fu Dao has initially mastered the Sword Dao?" Guan asked curiously, "A disciple? How can you tell so clearly? I can't even feel it." Lu Lingjun remained calm, saying, "Perhaps I've seen others cultivate sword intent." Having been a servant disciple for so long, she already understood the supreme sect and was ready to move up. To increase her status, her cultivation was naturally key. She didn't plan to start as an outer disciple but wanted to be introduced by Guan. Meanwhile, amidst clouds and mist, a mountain peak protruded through the sea of clouds, looking like an immortal realm. Alone at the mountain top, and Hao was meditating. And Hao's white robes fluttered wildly, and in front of him, a sword shadow condensed, exuding an ancient aura. Figures appeared out of thin air around him. LV Badian and Elder Shen Quan had also arrived. Elder Gu Zong looked at Hao, astonished, and said, "This sword intent is," another elder said in a deep voice, "the sword intent of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Did he gain insight from the Heavenly Repair platform?" "No, just relying on the Heavenly Repair platform isn't enough. He must have inherited Sword Venerable Fu Dao's legacy," a female elder said in a deep voice. "So, he is a disciple of Sword Venerable Fu Dao? No wonder such a genius would voluntarily join the Supreme Sect without any background. It turns out, Sword Venerable Fu Dao helped us nurture the disciple," Elder Gu Zong remarked. LV Badian kept his eyes fixed on Hao, his gaze flickering. Elder Shen Quan stroked his beard and said, "Such domineering sword intent, it could be recognized as the foremost sword Dao of the Taicang dynasty." His comment made the elders even more excited, and they began discussing Hao's background and talent. Elder Shen Quan meanwhile waved his sleeve and flags flew out from it, surrounding Hao. The flags started to gather nature's spiritual energy, pouring it into Hao's body. Chapter 121. The Battle of the World's #1 and Hao's Taicang Divine shocking sword intent shook the entire Supreme Sect, causing countless disciples to discuss it fervently. The sword intent lingered for several hours before it dissipated. In the following days, various rumors emerged. The only certainty was that the pressure came from a sword intent, which led to an increasing number of sword cultivators gathering at the Heavenly Repair platform. Guan's days had been quite peaceful. He moved between the 3 medicine valleys, occasionally visiting the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion at night, and spent the rest of the time enjoying life. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Guan turned 62 years old. The news of Sword Venerable Fu Dao's eradication of the ephemera sect demons had just truly spread throughout the immortal cultivation world. Guan often heard people in the outer sect talking about it, and Sword Venerable Fu Dao had already earned the reputation of being the foremost sword cultivator of the Taicang dynasty. Some even thought he was the best in the world. That day at noon, Guan stood at the edge of the Heavenly Repair platform, looking at the 100-foot-tall stone statue ahead, feeling pleased. This 100-foot-tall stone statue was the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fu Dao, crafted in the posture of Guan performing his 9 extremes yin-yang body. The demonic qi around him was sculpted into an aura. The statue had one hand pointing diagonally and the other holding a sword, exuding an imposing air. At this moment, it wasn't just Guan who was observing the divine statue of the Sword Venerable. There were also over a dozen others gazing up, each discussing among themselves. Listening to their words of admiration for Sword Venerable Fu Dao, Guan felt even more delighted. Fame across the world, who wouldn't want that? Guan wanted it too, but he feared others discovering his life-stealing ability, so he kept a low profile. However, being able to make a name for himself under another identity still satisfied his vanity. Sword Venerable Fu Dao may indeed be the foremost sword cultivator of the Taicang dynasty, but he is not necessarily the best in the world. A voice drew Guan's attention, as well as the gaze of many disciples around. The speaker was a man in blue attire, holding a folding fan. With an elegant demeanor and a handsome, calm face, it was as if the outrageous words just now hadn't come from his mouth. A burly inner sect disciple looked at the man in blue and said in a deep voice, "Oh? Then pray tell, who is the best sword cultivator in the world?" By now, Sword Venerable Fu Dao was the pride of all Supreme Sect disciples, and they wouldn't tolerate any questioning. The man in blue responded, "In the westernmost land within Tianwei, there is a sword cultivator called Daoist Tianjian. 700 years ago he was the foremost sword cultivator of Tianwei. He later retreated into the deep mountains, focusing solely on sword enlightenment. Not long ago, a sword intent erupted in Tianwei, proving he is still alive. If not for Sword Venerable Fudeo's swift action, it would have been this senior who ended the ephemera sect." Tianwei, one of the 9 dynasties located at the far west, constantly plagued by demons, yet its territory was even more extensive than Taicang, a testament to Tianwei's might. Guan sensed that this person's cultivation level was hidden. On the surface he appeared to be at the core formation realm, but had actually reached the divinity transformation realm. He cast a lifespan detection. Wuxia Divinity Transformation 2nd level 289/800/1300, concealed cultivation, and boasting of Tianwei cultivators, this rascal must not be a disciple of the Supreme Sect. Guan remained silent, watching as the surrounding disciples verbally attacked Wuxia. Wuxia remained indifferent, facing the insults and slanders with calmness. Daoist Tianjian was indeed formidable and once renowned throughout the world. But that's ancient history. As a prince of the Tianwei imperial family, possessing the fire god blood lineage, to speak so recklessly within the Supreme Sect, are you inciting a war? A voice came and everyone turned to see the mad swordsman of Great Yu Han Ming, striding forward. Wuxia turned back, raised his hand in salute and said, "So it's the mad swordsman, senior. I've heard you've been in the Supreme Sect for many years. Are you planning to join the Supreme Sect?" He smiled gently but his words were uncomfortable. "Humph boy, if not for the favor your father, the Emperor, granted me, you'd be a corpse now. Do you think your divinity transformation realm cultivation can withstand my sword?" Han Ming snorted coldly. Divinity transformation realm. Upon hearing this, the disciples who had previously insulted Wuxia all turned pale and retreated. Since that's the case, there's no need to pretend anymore. Wuxia smiled, then looked around and shouted, "I am a disciple of Daoist Tianjian, a prince of the Tianwei dynasty, Wuxia. Today I am here on behalf of my master to issue a challenge. In 3 months, my master will personally arrive at the heavenly repair platform to seek instruction in swordsmanship from Sword Venerable Fudao." His voice echoed beneath the sky, audible to the entire city. Someone wanted to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao? Han Ming smiled. He was the first sword cultivator to seek instruction from Sword Venerable Fudao, reminding him, "The ephemera sect has great cultivators beyond the unification realm. Does your master have such a level?" Wuxia closed his fan and smiled. "Of course, originally my father, the Emperor, was going to ask him to deal with the ephemera sect. Unfortunately he was a step too late." His tone was arrogant, as if Daoist Tianjian's victory over Sword Venerable Fudao was assured, further displeasing the Supreme Sect disciples. An elder appeared beside Wuxia out of thin air, said a few words using sound transmission skill, causing Wuxia's face to change slightly. He snorted, "Let's go. Anyway, the challenge has been issued. Whether or not Sword Venerable Fudao accepts it is his business." He then left with the elder. Guan watched his departing figure, growing cautious. Sword Venerable Fudao had just thwarted the ephemera sect's conspiracy and was at the height of his fame. For someone to dare step forward now, they must be very capable. Guan didn't dwell on it and turned to leave the heavenly repair platform, intending to check on Wuju. A month ago, Wuju's maximum lifespan had increased again, making Guan even more interested in him and curious about the potential limit of his lifespan. Third Medicine Valley inside a loft. LV Badian scoffed, "Tianwei is quite ambitious, wanting to suppress the Supreme Sect to seize control over the 9 Nether Road. Though strong, Daoist Tianjian is courting death by coming to the Supreme Sect." A month had passed since Wuxia issued his challenge, and the upcoming duel had spread throughout the Taicang immortal cultivation world. Cultivators from various sects and regions were flocking to watch. LV Badian seized the opportunity to promote the Golden List in various cities. The so-called Golden List was a ranking of the world's most talented individuals under the age of 500, encompassing the 9 dynasties. It caused quite a stir. Guan worriedly asked, "Will there be internal strife among the sects of the 9 dynasties?" "You can rest assured, the demon calamity is imminent, and no one dares to act recklessly. Furthermore, the main lineage of the ephemera sect may cause chaos on the 9 Nether Road. At that time, the sects of the 9 dynasties must unite. Otherwise, one-on-one, none can guarantee the defeat of the main lineage of the ephemera sect." That's precisely why Tianwei asked Taoist Tianjian to act, in the name of sparring to suppress us. LV Badian waved dismissively. Guan asked again, if Sword Venerable Fudao kills Taoist Tianjian, won't it trigger a war? Just when Han Ming had come, now another one. Guan couldn't tolerate it. This time he needed to strike, preventing such troubles from arising continuously. Naturally not. If even Taoist Tianjian is dead, Tianwei will only be more wary of the Supreme Sect. It's best if Sword Venerable Fudao slays Taoist Tianjian. LV Badian snorted, a fierce look on his face. Guan suddenly remembered that this guy had once been impeached by the Hall of Elders due to his tyrannical behavior. LV Badian's tone shifted. And how is a disciple of Sword Venerable Fudao? Do you think his appearance in front of me is a reminder from the Sword Venerable? A reminder of what? A reminder that my position as sect leader is unstable. LV Badian's eyes turned deep, and his tone became elusive, making it unclear what he was thinking. Guan couldn't help but laugh and said, if that's the case, hasn't Chu Chanchi already perished? LV Badian asked, do you think he hasn't? And how is exceptionally talented and must be favored by Sword Venerable Fudao? If it were you, would you send your most beloved disciple to a rival to become a sword? Guan felt LV Badian was getting delusional. You have a point. LV Badian smiled. Seeing his smile, Guan's heart skipped a beat. Wait, why was he asking him? LV Badian continued, and Hao's talent is so strong that once he fully grows, it will be easy for him to earn the respect of the entire Supreme Sect, just like that true inheritor. Kid, if you don't become sect leader, the position will be his. Wouldn't that be better? I don't want to be sect leader anyway. Guan shook his head and LV Badian smiled, saying no more. Then Guan inquired about Yilan's situation. The first group to venture into the Nine Nether Road had already set off. LV Badian reassured, don't worry, I personally instructed the leading elder to take care of her. With the Qinghong sword, Guan could always sense Yilan's situation. However, he would only intervene in her moments of peril. Normally, he didn't want her to be neglected or bullied. The two chatted a while longer. Before leaving, LV Badian left a book. After LV Badian left, Guan picked it up to read. Defying Fate Divine Skill. At dusk, Liya, carrying the North Sea heavy sword, walked to the edge of the heavenly repair platform, gazing at the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fudao with barely hidden excitement in his eyes. Ancestor, the primordial ancestor is indeed Sword Venerable Fudao. Liya screamed in his heart. The ancestor was also shocked, sighing, I thought he was the demon of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion? Haha, I told you, our primordial ancestor can't possibly be a demon cultivator. Liya was overjoyed. On his way here, he had already learned about Taoist Tianjian's challenge, so he came to the heavenly repair platform to admire the image of Sword Venerable Fudao, discovering that he was indeed the primordial ancestor of the Li family. He began to look forward to the upcoming duel. Why don't you go see your junior brother Gu? The old ancestor's voice teased. Liya replied in his mind, I won't disturb him. My recent experiences aren't worth sharing. They'll wait until I've mastered the Taicang Divine shocking sword. Besides, the Supreme Sect is about to launch the Golden List. I must make a name for myself in the Golden List ceremony. His tone was full of confidence. After consuming the Dragon Image Divine Primordial and learning the Taicang Divine shocking sword, his confidence had soared. 7 steps away, a figure approached, also starting to gaze up at the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fudao. Wuju. He looked at the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fudao, his eyes filled with sorrow. Master, you always respected Sword Venerable Fudao. It's a pity you can't witness the upcoming duel. Wuju thought silently, contemplating deeply. Gradually he began to enlighten the path. Liya, after watching for a while, turned to leave. Wait! The old ancestor's voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 122 The Real Taicang Divine Shocking Sword. What's wrong? Liya asked in his mind, puzzled. He couldn't wait to return to the inner sect's cave, to cultivate properly and then become famous throughout the world. The voice of the ancestor rang out, look at the person next to you, he's actually gaining enlightenment. His tone was heavy, even carrying a hint of shock. Gaining enlightenment? Liya was confused, unable to stop himself from turning his head to look. His gaze quickly fell on Wuju. Wuju appeared very out of it, starkly different from the energetic disciples of the Supreme Sect around him. Was he gaining enlightenment? What kind of enlightenment? Thinking about a cultivation technique? Leah asked in his heart. The ancestor replied, gaining enlightenment is a special state, something one can encounter but not seek. During the process of gaining enlightenment, one can feel the heaven and earth true meaning, which leads to a transformation in both comprehension and physical aptitude. Those who can gain enlightenment, even if only once, can defy fate and rewrite their destiny. Even I have never gained enlightenment. I have only seen a friend of mine who had. If he were still alive, he would undoubtedly be one of the top experts in the 9 dynasties of the immortal cultivation world. So amazing? Leah examined Wuju carefully but couldn't see how Wuju was different. He looked quite ordinary, even less impressive than his junior brother Gu. At least his junior brother Gu was handsome and easily likable. The Supreme Sect truly hides dragons and crouching tigers. Not to mention LV Xian and Ji Xiaoyu, the cultivation speed of Anhao is unprecedented in history. Anyway, I've never heard of such a prodigious talent before. Now you encounter someone gaining enlightenment. The younger they are when they gain enlightenment, the greater their potential. This boy looks about your age. In the future he will probably soar to great heights. The fortune of the Supreme Sect is unstoppable. The ancestor's tone was filled with emotion. He also felt pressured. Remembering his promises to Leah, he was filled with shame. He had promised to help Leah ascend to the peak of immortal cultivation and become #1 in the world. But seeing LV Xian and Ji Xiaoyu and hearing the legends of Anhao, he felt the pressure. The talent of these 3 was too exaggerated, and their backgrounds far surpassed Leah's. The ancestor thought he couldn't provide Leah with an advantage in cultivation resources. It's a good thing that the Supreme Sect is so powerful. With rivals, I have something to look forward to, Leah thought confidently, leaving the ancestor unsure of how to respond. After a long time, the ancestor finally spoke, just stay nearby. When he wakes up, ask him if he has a master. If not, accept him for me. Huh? I accept him as a disciple? Of course not, he will be my disciple. What do you mean? If he is your disciple, isn't he my ancestor? Be content. Without my help, you wouldn't even have the qualifications to compete with such a genius. The ancestor said rudely. Although Leah was annoyed, he didn't argue back. He began to wait while contemplating the sword intent of the Taicang Divine shocking sword. He waited for an entire night. The next morning Wuju finally woke up. He had gained enlightenment more than once, so his expression remained calm. He turned to leave but Leah stopped him. Brother, do you have a master? Leah asked directly. Wuju's eyes flashed with coldness. He bypassed Leah and walked toward the stage. Leah blocked him again, which made Wuju furious. He raised his hand to push Leah away. Leah's physical body was strong. He was not afraid of this Foundation Establishment realm cultivator. Wuju's right hand pressed against Leah's shoulder. Feeling the strength of his opponent, he clenched his fist and pushed hard. Leah was caught off guard and was pushed back 2 steps. Before he could react, Wuju controlled his sword and flew away, making it difficult for Leah to chase him since causing trouble in the city was prohibited. How is this possible, such great strength? Leah was shocked and bewildered. The ancestor sighed in his heart, it's a pity, don't chase him. Avoid making enemies. Leah lost his smile. As a core formation realm cultivator, he had been pushed away by a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator. He had taken the dragon image divine primordial, a treasure pursued by the demon clan. It was too humiliating. No way. I'm still not strong enough. Leah clenched his fists, his arrogance disappearing. In autumn, the outer gate city became bustling with activity. Guan and Wuju gathered in an inn, drinking and chatting, waiting for the upcoming battle. Wuju was complaining to Guan about meeting Leah last month. At the mention of Leah, he became furious, feeling that Leah had insulted him. Guan nodded after listening, saying, indeed, it's quite odd. Asking such a question out of nowhere, never mind. Don't think about him, he's just a passerby in your life. You will become a genius eventually, why bother with such a small role? Although the person Wuju spoke of was a bit despicable, Guan thought it wasn't worth holding a grudge. Wuju didn't need to worry about such small matters. When Wuju grew up, he couldn't imagine. Would he kill anyone he disliked? He didn't want Wuju to become such a person. Wuju nodded, saying, naturally, I won't hold a grudge. I'm just venting to you. You know, you are my only friend. Guan asked, when will you reveal your talent? The inn was crowded, most people were chatting about Sword Venerable Fudao and Taoist Tianjian, not paying attention to them. Hearing Guan's question, Wuju shook his head, it's fine just like this. He didn't trust others, especially since there had been internal strife in the Supreme Sect before. The former sect leader even conducted a blood sacrifice on his disciples, making him wary of the Supreme Sect. Guan took a storage bag from his waist and handed it to him. Wu Ju was suspicious, took the storage bag and probed inside with his divine sense. His face turned pale, quickly pushing it back, saying, "Brother Gu, I can't accept this. How do you have so many?" He had always thought Guan was an ordinary, lowly disciple like him but didn't expect Guan to have so many elixirs. Guan smiled, "I am the Valley Master of Medicine Valley. These are elixirs I have refined. Just accept them. I'm not too eager to become strong. I fear fighting the most. Growing flowers and plants is my joy, so the elixirs suit you better. When you become strong you must protect me." "But, this is too much," Wu Ju hesitated. "You said I'm your only friend. Just accept it. If you feel bad, consider me your elder brother. An elder brother is like a father. As your teacher, I will take good care of you. I have plenty of elixirs." Guan made funny faces, making Wu Ju smile and glare at him. "I'm 2 years older than you, I should be the elder brother. Forget it, your temperament is not as mature as mine." They began to bicker, and the smile on Wu Ju's face grew wider. In the end, Wu Ju accepted the storage bag, secretly vowing to never let anyone bully Guan in the future. They continued drinking. After 30 minutes, a loud voice echoed through the outer gate city. "I, Taoist Tianjin, have come to challenge the sword Venerable Fu Dao of the Supreme Sect." As the voice fell, a vast, majestic sword intent enveloped the entire outer gate city. Wu Ju's expression changed immediately, turning to look. Guan had already sensed Taoist Tianjian's presence, so he remained unmoved. Taoist Tianjin was indeed very strong, even slightly stronger than the Night Cultivator Fairy of the Ephemera sect. He was estimated to have the cultivation level of the 4th or 5th layer of the Mystic Heart Realm. Reaching the Mystic Heart Realm, a small realm gap was difficult to surpass. No wonder Taoist Tianjin dared to come. Guan stood up, saying, "I just remembered I have something to do at the Elixir Hall. I need to quickly get it done so I can watch the battle between Sword Venerable Fu Dao and Taoist Tianjin. They'll come find you afterward." With that, he hurriedly left. Wu Ju didn't have time to stop him. After going downstairs, Wu Ju leaned out the window and shouted, "Hurry up!" Guan waved without turning back and quickly disappeared around the street corner. Taoist Tianjin has come. The outer gate city stirred, with more and more cultivators flying out, searching for Taoist Tianjian's figure in the sky. At this moment, a Tenjiang tall sword, gleaming with white light, descended from the sky and hovered above the South City Gate. Atop the sword's hilt stood an elder with the demeanor of an immortal, his hair white, garbed in white robes, with no sword or magic artifact in hand, his arms crossed behind him. He closed his eyes and began waiting. The news spread quickly, and disciples from all directions in Outer Gate City hurried over. LV Badian brought in Hao to the heavenly repair platform. Soon after, Xian Quan, Gu Zong and other high-ranking members of the Supreme Sect appeared one by one. And Hao gazed curiously at Taoist Tianjian's figure. He now knew that his master was the Sword Venerable Fu Dao of the Supreme Sect. He came specifically to watch the fight, believing his master to be invincible, so he wasn't worried about his master losing. He just wanted to see how Taoist Tianjin would lose. Xian Quan stroked his beard, feeling emotional. Such profound sword intent and deep Dao level, as formidable as ever after 1,000 years. He and Taoist Tianjin were cultivators from the same era, having witnessed Taoist Tianjian's prowess, so he didn't underestimate him. The figures on the heavenly repair platform rapidly multiplied, and the vast platform quickly became crowded. Leah also arrived, standing on a rooftop, observing Taoist Tianjin from afar. Taoist Tianjian's aura was too overwhelming, giving people the feeling of facing an immortal descending to the mortal world, far surpassing the traveler of graceful crane. This made Leah somewhat nervous. "This old guy is something else," Leah remarked in his heart. Indeed, he might be above the unification level. Daring to show up at this critical moment indicates his strong confidence. "Stronger than I was in my previous life," the ancestor said gravely. "Stronger than you again?" Leah really wanted to retort but held back. The ancestor could hear his thoughts, causing an awkward silence between them as they waited for Sword Venerable Fu Dao to appear. Prince Sijia from Tianwei ascended the heavenly repair platform, smiling. Everyone watched closely. Witness the first sword of Tianwei. See what it means to be the sword immortal of mortal world. Hearing his words, the disciples of the Supreme Sect were displeased, but the presence of Taoist Tianjin was too strong. Under his watchful eyes they didn't dare speak boldly. Time passed. Xinjun also came. She stood on a rooftop, taking out a pen and paper, eyes filled with anticipation as she looked at Taoist Tianjian. Meanwhile, Guan had already moved to a forest. Sitting under a tree he pondered how to defeat Taoist Tianjian. Rarely taking action, it had to be a grand display under so many eyes. Guan looked at the leaf in his hand, then suddenly threw it to the ground, muttering, "Never mind, just let them witness the real Taicang Divine shocking sword." Chapter 123, Number 1 in the World. In the outer gate city, Taoist Tianjian stood motionless on a giant sword of white light. The autumn wind made his robe, white hair and beard flutter, making him look transcendent as if he could ascend to immortality at any moment. The eaves of every building in the city were crowded with disciples, not only of the supreme sect but also cultivators from other sects and families, all eager to see who was the greatest sword master of the time. Billowing dark clouds surged from the horizon, swiftly covering the entire city, increasing the tension. Everyone dared not speak loudly, only whispering to each other. Wu Ju stood on an eave, facing the wind. The wind grew stronger, forcing him to cultivate energy to keep his hair from blocking his vision. What a powerful presence, truly like that of an immortal. Why hasn't Sword Venerable Fu Dao appeared yet? This battle can't be avoided, even the Prince of Tianwei has come to challenge us. Don't worry, the Venerable will definitely come. Even the mad swordsman of Great Yu had to wait for a while when he challenged him before. What's the hurry? A good show needs to be savored. Listening to the discussions around him, Wu Ju's eyes were filled with longing. He wondered when he would achieve such prestige. In the future he too wanted to have such a widely anticipated duel with the top experts of the time. He hoped his opponent would be Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Boom, the dark clouds suddenly changed and thunder roared. A majestic celestial force descended, enveloping the outer gate city. "He's here," Xian Quan said softly, drawing the eyes of those around him. And Hao was particularly excited, clenching his fists. Taoist Tianjian, standing on the giant sword of white light, also opened his eyes. He looked up at the boundless thunderclouds. The thunderclouds covered the entire sky, with lightning bolts like writhing dragons, making countless cultivators feel the pressure, as if a great catastrophe was impending. Thunder roared continuously, and the wind howled through the heavens and earth. Taoist Tianjian stood on the hilt of his sword, his white robe flaring like white flames burning fiercely. "Sword Venerable Fu Dao, why do you not show yourself? Is this how the Supreme Sect treats its guests?" His voice echoed, cold and indifferent. On the heavenly repair platform, Han Ming sneered. "You didn't even get to meet Sword Venerable Fu Dao back then, and now you think you can? Just wait to be defeated." Shenzhen had already sketched the figure of Taoist Tianjian. She took out another sheet of paper and continued to draw, first capturing the oppressive scene of the sky filled with thunderclouds. "Face your demise with your strongest swordsmanship." A deep, hoarse voice rang out, making Li Ya and Hao incredibly excited. It was the voice of the primordial ancestor. It was the voice of the master. All the cultivators in the city held their breath. It was the first time they had heard the voice of Sword Venerable Fu Dao, and they were all shocked by its domineering tone. Absolute confidence, absolute dominance, this was the Sword Venerable Fu Dao of the Supreme Sect. Taoist Tianjian's eyes sharpened, and a vast sword intent burst from within him, sweeping across the sky above the outer gate city, forming a vast sea of swords. The brilliant sword light, crystal-like starlight, illuminated everyone's face. At a glance, it looked like a galaxy transversing above the outer gate city, astonishing everyone. What kind of sword intent was this? Was this a realm achievable through cultivation? In the galaxy formed by the condensed sword intent, countless sword shadows began to coalesce, all pointing skyward, their edges gleaming sharply. At the same time, the thunderclouds above intensified in their churning, quickly forming a giant face, with only its facial features visible, leaving the true visage unseen. It looked like an immortal deity, gazing down upon the entire outer gate city. In front of this giant face, everyone seemed insignificant, including the galaxy of sword intent created by Taoist Tianjian. Everyone's hearts raced as they looked at the massive face that occupied most of the sky, feeling an inexplicable sense of awe. Taoist Tianjian frowned, raising his right hand and placing 2 fingers to his lips. He began cultivating energy, and white flames of sword intent gathered around him, wind swirling around his body. His aura reached its peak, even startling the city's protection array to activate, forming a giant light shield to protect the entire city, with him floating just at its edge. The ground trembled, mountains swayed. The distant mystic valley was alarmed, making all the servant disciples turn their heads. Chu Jingfeng quickly reached the mountaintop, gazing afar at the rolling thunderclouds on the horizon, as if a great calamity was imminent. Not only from Mystic Valley but even from the distant Tianya Valley, people were also alarmed. Iluyun, meditating on the mountaintop, squinted towards the distance, his hands tightly clenched in his sleeves. At this moment, this seeker of the sword Dao felt his insignificance. On the heavenly repair platform, the Prince of Tianwei, Xijia, also became tense. Although Sword Venerable Fu Dao had yet to appear, the giant face in the sky was so terrifying that even he couldn't imagine what kind of power could crush the oppressive might of this giant face. Heavenly sword rise? In the still and oppressive heaven and earth, Taoist Tianjian's voice suddenly rang out, like the first ray of light piercing through chaos, invigorating everyone's spirits. Taoist Tianjian thrust his right hand towards the sky, causing countless sword shadows floating in the galaxy of sword intent to rise together, converging, grand and spectacular. At this moment, the giant face in the sky suddenly opened its third eye on its forehead. A sword light shot out from the third eye, seeming like the light of the heavenly Tao, descending with unparalleled celestial might. Boom! The two terrifying sword intents collided in midair, causing the world to resonate. Countless cultivators' senses trembled, their visions blurred, and various noises filled their ears. Their divine senses felt a burning sensation, instinctively retreating. Mystic heart, LV Badian muttered as he gazed up at the unparalleled battle. His face was illuminated by two kinds of strong light, divided into upper and lower layers. The light below was silvery white, while the light above was dimmer, yet it continually devoured the silvery white light below. Taoist Tianjian's expression changed dramatically. His opponent's sword intent far exceeded his expectations. Impossible. Could he not be of the mystic heart realm? He thought in disbelief. At this moment, the sword light from the third eye of the giant face suddenly grew stronger, shattering his sword intent and descending upon him with a speed surpassing lightning. His white hair and robe flared. He stared with wide eyes, his body turning rigid. In his pupils, a figure could be vaguely seen gazing down at him as if an immortal deity watching over an ant. In the eyes of all onlookers, Taoist Tianjian's sword intent lasted only for the span of 2 breaths before it was instantly shattered. The vast galaxy of sword lights was crushed, forming countless silver fragments floating inside and outside the city. The scene was so visually overwhelming that cultivators of all realms were moved. Xian Quan's eyes widened, his heart churning with waves of shock. He had the highest realm and saw everything clearly. The gap between Sword Venerable Fu Dao and Taoist Tianjian was immense. Taoist Tianjian was no match for Sword Venerable Fu Dao at all. He could even confirm that when Sword Venerable Fu Dao first attacked, he deliberately held back. Otherwise he could have killed Taoist Tianjian in an instant. Taoist Tianjian first showcased his strong sword intent to emphasize how terrifying Sword Venerable Fu Dao's sword was. At least Xian Quan was frightened, unable to fathom the true strength of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Xijia's pupils dilated, and his face was filled with disbelief as he looked at Taoist Tianjian. Before Sword Venerable Fu Dao acted, Taoist Tianjian was the number 1 in the world in his eyes. Yet, this number 1 in the world had been defeated so utterly. The mad swordsman of Great Yu Han Ming fell into a stupor. The strength demonstrated by Sword Venerable Fu Dao made him feel ashamed, realizing how overconfident he had been before. And Hao smiled broadly, trying to suppress his urge to cheer. Leah stood on the eaves, dumbstruck by what he saw. Shenzhen quickly regained her composure and swiftly sketched the scene of Taoist Tianjian's dreadful defeat. The wind howled as Taoist Tianjian fell backward. His mystic heart was shattered, and his primordial spirit was continuously breaking apart. It was hopeless and he couldn't even speak anymore. Yet, his face showed a satisfied smile. The number 1 sword in the world. I have witnessed it. Taoist Tianjian's eyelids grew heavier. His gaze remained fixed on the giant face in the sky. Even when he closed his eyes, the corners of his mouth lifted into a smile. With a thud, Taoist Tianjian's body fell in front of the South City Gate, stirring up a cloud of dust. The overwhelming oppressive force covering the entire world dissipated, and the giant face formed of thunderclouds in the sky vanished as well. Boom! The entire city shook. The sounds of uproar and exclamations erupted like thunder from a clear sky. Everyone became excited, the cheers, shouts, and exclamations merging into a deafening roar. My heavens! It ended with one strike? Haha, I told you, Sword Venerable Fu Dao couldn't be defeated. The gap is too vast. Actually, Taoist Tianjian is really strong. Before Sword Venerable Fu Dao acted, I really thought he was the #1 in the world. Yes, that vast sword intent even made my sword want to unsheath. Listening to the voices from every direction, Wuju also felt excited. It was a pity Guan wasn't around. He wouldn't be able to express his emotions alone. Just then he saw Guan leap up from the street, hurrying toward him. Seeing this, Wuju's face immediately broke into an excited smile. My heavens, did you see that just now? Was incredible. Guan hurried to Wuju, excitedly exclaiming. Wuju responded enthusiastically, I saw it. I saw it. He grabbed Guan, starting to exclaim in awe, just as excited as the others in the city. On the heavenly repair platform, LV Badian looked at Gu Zong and instructed, increase the publicity for the Golden List Assembly. The top rank can get the Supreme Sect's secret manual of divine skills. Gu Zong nodded, unable to suppress the smile on his face. LV Badian then turned to another elder, saying, initiate the plan for the world's first sword society, start spreading the word. The top 10 in the world can observe Sword Venerable Fu Dao's sword intent and obtain his Sword Dao legacy. The elder nodded but suddenly thought of something, hesitating to speak. There were too many people around, some things couldn't be asked directly. The entire outer gate city was even more bustling than during the new year, or rather, the city had never been this lively before. Stroking his beard, Xian Quan gazed out and sighed, the Supreme Sect is destined to rise. And Hao closed his eyes, carefully savoring Sword Venerable Fu Dao's earlier strike. Mysteriously, he seemed to grasp something, falling into deep contemplation. As if sensing something, Xian Quan suddenly turned to look at An Hao, as did everyone else. When they saw An Hao's state, they were all moved. This boy. Chapter 124 Lifespan of 2 million years. Inside the inn. Guan and Wuju finally found a seat. After sitting down, they continued to discuss the intense battle they had just witnessed. Though it was brief, it was enough to make all the spectators' blood boil with excitement. Guan smiled in agreement, feeling a slight tinge of regret. Killing Taoist Tianjian would only grant 10 years of lifespan, because Taoist Tianjian had less than 200 years left to live when he chose to take his own life. Taoist Tianjian probably reached the mystic heart realm long ago, but 700 years ago he likely realized there was no hope for his cultivation to increase further, so he secluded himself in the deep mountains. Unfortunately, after sitting for 700 years, he still couldn't find the path. This time, Taoist Tianjian came seeking death. Guan didn't dwell on it. His attention was soon drawn to An Hao on the heavenly repair platform. An Hao was actually achieving path enlightenment. The inner sect elders surrounded him, protecting him. Good lad. Guan felt comforted. The stronger An Hao became, the happier he was. An Hao was his true disciple. Unlike the disciples of Medicine Valley, the more powerful An Hao became, the more pride Guan felt. With so many great cultivators protecting him, Guan was relieved. He withdrew his thoughts and focused on drinking and laughing with Wuju. Before long, a figure approached and sat beside Guan. She nonchalantly handed him a drawing. What do you think, how is the drawing? Xinjin asked with a smile. Guan took a careful look. In the painting, Taoist Tianjian stood with arms spread wide, enduring the sword light descending from the sky. The dark and fierce style of the painting gave a sense of tragic beauty. Not bad as expected from you, Guan praised casually. Xinjin pouted, sensing his perfunctory tone. Wuju hesitated and asked, Brother Gu, who is this? Although Xinjin wore a veil, her attire and features indicated she must be a beauty and of high status. Guan smiled and said, This lady is named Xinjin. Like me, you can address her as Miss Shen. He then introduced Wuju to Xinjin. Seeing Xinjin's indifferent attitude, Guan reminded her, My brother here is no ordinary person. He will someday make a name for himself in the Supreme Sect. Don't talk nonsense. Wuju interrupted hastily, his face turning red. Really? Xinjin couldn't help but reassess Wuju, making him even more uncomfortable. Guan laughed, Come, let's drink and chat. In his view, Wuju was destined to showcase his talents, and Xinjin, being a holy daughter of a major sect, would eventually cross paths with him. Meeting earlier would help them look after each other in the future. Xinjin also started talking about the earlier battle, eagerly leading the conversation while Guan continued to play the role of the agreeing listener, and Wu Ju became increasingly ill at ease, managing only to smile politely. After 30 minutes, Shen Zhen stood up to leave, intending to paint more scenes of the earlier battle. After she left, Wu Ju finally breathed a sigh of relief. Guan teased him, "Why are you so nervous? Don't tell me you've taken a liking to her?" "Nonsense, that lady clearly has her heart set on you. As your brother, how could I have improper thoughts? I just don't know how to talk to women. You know well, you're my only friend." Wu Ju glared at him, quite serious. "Here we go again. You're my only friend." Guan shook his head and laughed. Having one more friend means having one more path. Walking alone in the immortal cultivation world is tiring. "I know, it's just that I'm not good at making friends." "Then what about us?" "We hit it off right away. It wasn't about making friends, it was destiny." "Hey you brat, you sure know how to talk to me." Guan laughed heartily. With him, Wu Ju was confident and not the least bit nervous. They talked until dusk before parting ways. Guan then went back to Mystic Valley to see his disciples. He noticed Chu Jingfeng sitting silently on the mountaintop and decided not to disturb him. If Chu Jingfeng could achieve path enlightenment, it would be a good thing. However, path enlightenment wasn't easy. And Hao and Wu Ju were once in Millennium talents, not everyone could compare to them. After spending an hour in Mystic Valley, Guan visited the Third Medicine Valley. The Third Medicine Valley was much livelier than Mystic Valley, as it had 10 times the number of disciples. Guan chatted with the disciples for a while before returning to his loft, preparing to read and soothe his mind. Deep into the night, footsteps could be heard outside the door. Soon, a voice came in, "Valley Master, I have something to discuss with you." Lu Lingjun. She even used the sound transmission skill. Guan put down the supreme secret records in his hands, placing the investiture of the gods over it. He spoke, "Come in." Lu Lingjun pushed open the door and after closing it, cast a restriction on the door. Guan was astonished, looking at Lu Lingjun in surprise. Lu Lingjun turned around, walked to the table, raised her hand in salute to Guan, and said, "Valley Master, I deeply apologize for hiding something from you before." "Your cultivation level?" Guan asked nervously. Lu Lingjun said, "Truthfully, I'm at the Void Crossing Realm." "Void Crossing Realm?" Guan stood up abruptly. Lu Lingjun quickly said, "Valley Master, I mean no harm. Listen to me first." Upon hearing this, Guan's expression changed several times before he slowly sat down. Seeing Guan sit down, Lu Lingjun smiled and said, "I hid my cultivation level because I don't know much about the Taicang dynasty. I come from a very far place. While exploring a great power's cave, I encountered a mysterious formation and got transported here. Unable to find my way back, I decided to settle in the Supreme Sect. I hope the Valley Master could help introduce me." Guan asked in surprise, "With your cultivation level, you can openly join the Supreme Sect. Why need my introduction?" "The Supreme Sect has strict rules. With my cultivation level, I can only become a guest elder, which means years of waiting. I noticed the Valley Master has connections. With your help, I could avoid decades of struggle," Lu Lingjun said seriously. As she spoke, she took out 3 bottles from her sleeve and said, "These are heavenly spirit water as a token of gratitude. I hope the Valley Master likes them." Seeing this, Guan's expression turned stern. "This is nonsense. If you do this, it will seem as if I only helped you because of your gift. What would people think of me?" He gathered the 3 bottles in front of him. Lu Lingjun laughed and said, "How could that be? These heavenly spirit waters are only to thank the Valley Master for your care during this time." "I see. You've been thoughtful." Guan smiled with satisfaction and then motioned Lu Lingjun to sit down. He began to explain some matters to her, mainly about the structure of the Supreme Sect, pointing out the importance of family influence to avoid making enemies. Initially, Lu Lingjun didn't take it seriously, but as she listened, she realized Guan was genuinely considering her situation, and she became earnest. Autumn passed and winter came, covering the Third Medicine Valley in snow. On this day, LV Badian came to visit Guan. Seeing his figure, Lu Lingjun knew her opportunity had arrived. Guan didn't disappoint her. Half an hour later, Guan and LV Badian came downstairs, and Guan waved to Lu Lingjun from afar. She quickly approached them and LV Badian sized her up and said, "Guan has told me everything. Follow me to get your disciple token replaced." Lu Lingjun immediately thanked LV Badian and bowed to Guan. Guan smiled and nodded, then watched them fly away. Xiaochuan came over, astonished, and asked, "Why did Lu Lingjun leave? Didn't you notice she flew very fast?" Guan asked, then turned to leave. Xiaochuan was puzzled and followed him, asking, "What do you mean? Wasn't it that elder who flew her away?" Xiaochuan. "Yes, senior brother. Sometimes having a big heart is a good thing. Keep it that way." Huh. Guan ignored Xiaochuan and walked towards the heavenly spirit pond. Watching the carp in the pond had become one of his pleasures. Earlier, LV Badian had sought him to discuss the Golden List Conference and the world's first sword society. Not wanting to exhaust himself with future military strategies, he hadn't offered many opinions, so LV Badian hadn't stayed long. The coming days should be peaceful for many years, Guan thought to himself. In the cold winter, the news of Sword Venerable Fudao killing Taoist Tianjian with a single strike began to spread across the 9 dynasties, and the Supreme Sect used this momentum to negotiate with other dynasties to expand their influence. Though the process was difficult, the Supreme Sect's high-ranking officials didn't feel tired. From top to bottom, everyone felt a surge of energy, knowing that the Supreme Sect was on the rise. With the strongest cultivator in the world backing them, how could the Supreme Sect not dominate the 9 dynasties? Years flew by. 5 years passed swiftly, and 67-year-old Guan walked out from the elixir hall. He paused at the entrance, looking back and sighed gently. Zhu Qinglu was no longer there, having retired. Though the new elder was very respectful to him, Guan still felt somewhat uncomfortable. Old friends were gone and new people had arrived. Guan turned back and blended into the bustling street. In 5 years, the Supreme Sect had risen, evident from the increasing number of disciples in the outer gate city. The Golden List Conference had become famous worldwide, and in 5 years, it would be held at the Supreme Sect. It was said that the Supreme Sect invited 100 clans from the 9 dynasties to lead the event, which would attract more and more geniuses to participate in the future. Guan suspected that the Ji family and the Gu family had contributed significantly, but of course, other families also wanted to invest in the Supreme Sect. Having more paths to tread was always beneficial. As Guan walked through the streets, he could hear the discussions of disciples passing by. Many famous talents' names filled his ears, with An Hao being mentioned the most frequently. Last year, An Hao went down the mountain to gain experience and developed a grudge with the demon path. Using his core formation realm cultivation, he killed a nascent soul realm great cultivator, making a name for himself in the immortal cultivation world. The title of the Supreme Sect's top genius was firmly placed on An Hao's head, with no one able to challenge it. As for LV Xian, although he was the champion of the 100 Clans Conference, those clans were high above the world and didn't engage directly with the immortal cultivation world. In the past 5 years, Guan's days had been very calm, but his lifespan had increased by over 700,000 years, surpassing 2 million years. The goal of 10 million years no longer seemed so distant, leaving him motivated and never feeling tired or bored. "Brother Gu, long time no see." A voice came from around the corner of the street. Guan turned to see the Juishan sect's genius Zhou Tongyu approaching. Behind Zhou Tongyu was an elder who was plump, holding a feather fan, looking quite endearing. Before Zhou Tongyu reached Guan, Lu Lingjun appeared out of thin air in front of him. Years ago, after she followed LV Badian, Lu Lingjun returned the next day. She was now an inner sect elder, but her task was to protect Guan. This had frustrated her for a long time. If not for fearing Sword Venerable Fudao, she would have long ago unsheathed her sword against LV Badian. Chapter 125, Golden List's Note, Ghost in the Night. The person behind him is not simple. Lu Lingjun used the sound transmission skill to remind Guan, her gaze bypassing Zhou Tongyu to look at the fat elder behind him. Guan had already seen the opponent's cultivation level but still cast a lifespan detection. Zhou Li Unification Realm, 7th layer 1478/3000/3100, surname Zhou again. Guan was curious. When Zhou Tongyu came last time, there was no great cultivator following him. Zhou Tongyu looked at Lu Lingjun and smiled. "Brother Gu, it's been many years and you have experts protecting you. It seems you have done quite well these years." Guan smiled and asked, "I wonder if Brother Zhou is here to participate in the Golden List tournament this time?" "Indeed, this time I aim to take the top spot and become famous. What do you say, aspire at your Medicine Valley?" Zhou Tongyu asked with burning eyes. Although it had been many years, Guan's cultivation level was still mediocre, but he felt Guan had his strengths. Guan shook his head and said, "Forget it, I won't ask for trouble now. Supreme Sect is full of geniuses these days, you should find someone else." Haha, I came early to visit after hearing of Anhao's fame. Since you are unwilling, I will go find Anhao now, Zhou Tongyu said laughingly. After speaking, he turned and left. Zhou Li, in the Unification Realm's 7th layer, smiled and nodded at Lu Lingjun, then followed Zhou Tongyu. After they had walked away, Lu Lingjun turned around and asked, "A nascent soul realm cultivator wants to spar with you?" Zhou Tongyu had already achieved the nascent soul realm and did not conceal his aura at all. At that time he suppressed his cultivation level to spar with me, and I slightly had the upper hand, Guan said, pretending to be proud. Lu Lingjun chuckled and said, "I didn't think you had this skill. Indeed, appearances can be deceiving." After 5 years together they were already familiar, lacking formalities. Of course, she still had grievances regarding LV Baishan's arrangements, so her attitude towards Guan was not as respectful as before. "What are you saying, am I not handsome?" "A bit handsome, good enough to be a cauldron for a female demon." "Cough cough, you are a female cultivator, please mind your words." Guan gave Lu Lingjun a sidelong glance and then walked forward. Since Lu Lingjun was sent back, her temperament had changed and Guan felt awkward, knowing he was at fault, he could only compromise. Blame LV Badian. What kind of arrangement was this? Guan didn't need Lu Lingjun's protection. Fortunately, Lu Lingjun was also slack. The reason she came to the outer sect today was for her matter, and she just accompanied him. Lu Lingjun looked at Guan's back, snorted, and then walked in another direction. Guan prepared to visit Wuju. He found that there were many great cultivators in the city, most of them hiding their cultivation level. It seemed that the Golden List tournament would cause trouble. If the Supreme Sect succeeded, it would be easier to host such tournaments in the future, and other sects would not sit idly by. Guan was not worried at all. Besides Xian Quan, another Supreme Elder had recently returned to the Supreme Sect, whose cultivation was slightly weaker than Xian Quan but still in the Mystic Heart Realm. With 2 Mystic Heart Realm Elders guarding, it would not be easy for other sects to shake Supreme Sect. In 30 minutes, Guan arrived at Wuju's courtyard. Wuju was practicing punches in the yard without mobilizing spiritual power, only practicing moves. Bare-chested, he looked very strong and each punch could shake the space. Wuju Foundation Establishment Realm, 9th layer 69/350/3500, his maximum lifespan had increased again. Guan noticed that whenever he did not check on Wuju for more than 2 months, Wuju would gain enlightenment. In 1 year he visited every month, but Wuju could not gain enlightenment. After enlightenment, Wuju emitted a solitary, lonely aura. This made Guan have odd thoughts. Could it be that as long as Wuju is neglected, he will gain enlightenment? He decided not to check on him for the next year and see how far Wuju could gain enlightenment. Guan hoped that Wuju would catch up with Anhao. This way, Anhao would have more rivals and not become overly arrogant. Smooth sailing was not always good. Seeing Guan, Wuju glanced at him without making a sound. "Look what good thing I brought you." Guan's voice came. Upon hearing, Wuju reluctantly walked towards Guan and asked, "What good thing?" Guan took out an invitation from his storage bag, with golden edges and a red background, engraved with 4 large characters. Golden List Tournament. "How do you have this?" Wuju asked in surprise. The Golden List Tournament was not for everyone. Participants needed certain fame and had to pay 10 top-grade spirit stones for an invitation. The rewards for the Golden List Tournament were also very rich. The top 100 winners all received prizes, with higher ranks yielding better rewards. Wuju had naturally heard of it and envied those talents. Guan smiled proudly and said, "I put in a lot of effort. But with my cultivation level, it's useless to participate." Wuju shook his head. Guan comforted him, "Don't worry. The Golden List Tournament compares talent, not cultivation level. As long as your strength in the same realm is strong enough, you can stand out." Really? Really? Since he set the rules, how could it not be true? Guan thought to himself. Wuju lacked resources, staying hidden was not a solution. In reality, Wuju wanted to stand out but was too shy to ask for help. Wuju accepted the invitation, hugged Guan, patted him heavily on the back and then grabbed his shoulders saying, "Brother, I won't talk much but I promise not to disgrace you." Having gained enlightenment several times, Wuju could feel his changes, developing confidence that was slowly altering his personality. Confidence of a strong person. Guan smiled and said, "There are still 5 years. You must focus on cultivation. I won't see you again for the next 5 years." Wuju was startled. "Why? What will keep you busy for 5 years?" "It's a sect matter not convenient to discuss," Guan shook his head. Could it be because of this invitation? Wu Ju suddenly felt the golden list tournament invitation in his hand was heavy. He hesitated. Guan reminded, besides the sunset fist, don't forget to practice the Gale Shadowless leg, it will make you faster. Wu Ju nodded heavily. This time at the golden list tournament, he swore to make a name for himself. At the end of summer in Mystic Valley, Guan lay under a tree, one hand under his head, the other holding a book, reading with relish. A figure came before him, looking down at him. It was Li Ya. Li Ya still carried a heavy sword, wore a fitted black outfit, his long hair tied behind his head with a blue ribbon, revealing a determined and handsome face. Cough, cough, junior brother Gu. Li Ya feigned a cough. Supreme Secret Records. He didn't expect junior brother Gu to read it too. Also, with the same name he must feel immersed. Li Ya thought silently. Guan quickly stood up, putting the Supreme Secret Records into his bosom. He already sensed Li Ya's presence, but since Li Ya practiced an energy-concealing sorcery, he pretended not to know. Senior brother Li, why are you here? Guan asked, pretending to be pleasantly surprised. Li Ya replied, I've been back for several years planning to go to Cangzhou, then return to participate in the Golden List tournament. Guan sighed, so busy senior brother Li, you must be very powerful now. Li Ya raised his chin, full of spirit. Not very powerful, but getting the top 10 at the Golden List tournament is not difficult. Deserving of senior brother Li, the pride of our Mystic Valley. Indeed. Haven't you been injured over the years? Of course not, since I parted ways with you I haven't bled. Your senior is not the same as before, Li Ya said seriously. Such a show-off. Guan wished Li Ya would call him Grand Ancestor. Li Ya took out 2 items from his storage bag, an invitation and a long wooden box. This is an invitation to the Golden List tournament. You should participate. This box contains 10,000 year with spirit ginseng. With 5 years to digest it, your spiritual power can change dramatically, helping you achieve a good ranking, Li Ya explained. Guan was stunned. Li Ya directly put them in his arms, saying, don't refuse or he'll be angry. After saying that, he let go and Guan quickly caught them. Li Ya turned to leave. Leaving already? Guan quickly asked. Li Ya waved his hand, cultivating the path of immortality, no time for chit-chat. If you want to see me perform well at the Golden List tournament. He leapt, turning into a sword light, flying across the mountains, disappearing without a trace. Guan stared at the invitation in his hand, speechless for a long time. On the mountain top, Chu Jingfeng turned his head, looking in the direction Li Ya disappeared, frowning. He remembered Li Ya. Back then, due to Li Ya's prince status, he even spoke a few words with him, encouraging him to practice diligently. After many years, their statuses and positions were vastly different, and he was not the sky. Guan shook his head with a smile, then put the items into his storage bag. This guy always gave things when they met, seemingly knowing his personality, and always giving items that boosted cultivation levels and qualifications. Another year saw the arrival of the Spring Festival. After dusk, Mystic Valley was very lively. Guan had just come from the Third Medicine Valley, sitting around a long table with the disciples. Zhen Qin sat on his right, continuously pouring wine for him and talking about matters in the immortal cultivation world. The hateful Heaven Divine sword appeared in the great Jiang dynasty nearby, turning the immortal cultivation world upside down. It said that the hateful Heaven Divine sword has reached the transformation realm and is accompanied by demons, very terrifying. I'm not sure if it's senior brother Su-Han, Zhen Qin sighed towards the end. Talking about Su-Han made her sad. They used to be so close, but now their paths diverged into good and evil. Guan said, he is no longer your senior brother. Don't call him that anymore to avoid trouble for you and us. Zhen Qin wanted to argue, but looking at the many disciples in Medicine Valley, she remained silent. Guan began picking up food for her while watching the other disciples play drinking games. After a bowl of wine, Zhen Qin perked up and started talking about Inhao. Mentioning Inhao, her face filled with admiration, she spoke endlessly. Guan listened attentively. Suddenly he sensed something and his expression changed slightly. After Zhen Qin finished, he said, I need to visit my room, you can continue later. I want to know about Inhao and the specific grievances with the Wanyin sect demon. After speaking, he stood up and returned to his room. Zhen Qin was not puzzled, starting to toast with Lu Jiujia. Back in his room, Guan activated the restrictions, then stepped 100 miles away. In the dark forest, there were 13 ghost-like figures moving forward. 4 of them carried a big coffin. They did not notice Guan nearby, spying on them in the dark. A group of Unification Realm cultivators. Chapter 126. Immortal King Crown. Evil Emperor Gu went through lifespan detection at the 13 figures in the forest one after another, and found that the cultivation levels of these 13 people were the same, all at the third level of the Unification Realm, and their ages were also the same. They all had the surname Li. Guwen could not help but think of the 9 Nether 13 evil that had alarmed the immortal cultivation world before. What were these people doing at the Supreme Sect? There were still a few years left before the Golden List Conference. Seeing that they were not moving quickly, Guwen did not hurry to stop them, wanting to see what these guys were up to. That large coffin attracted Guwen's attention. His divine sense probed into the coffin and found a skeleton. The skeleton emitted a bizarre feeling, and there was a dark golden crown on its head. The crown's gemstones had disappeared, leaving several grooves, yet it still seemed extraordinary. About half an hour passed. 13 figures all stopped in unison. The leader, Li Shoyo, turned around and waved his hand. The 4 people carrying the large coffin followed suit and put it down, then began to open it. Just as the cover of the coffin was about to open, a hand suddenly pressed down on it. The 13 people all looked at the end of the coffin, only to see Guwen standing there, shrouded in dark purple demonic chi, his right hand pressing down on the coffin lid. The forest fell into silence. These 13 people did not run and did not attack. The other 12 all looked at Li Shoyo. Their entire bodies were pitch black, like ghostly shadows, their true appearances unclear and their emotions indiscernible. Li Shoyo nodded slightly, then knelt down. Seeing this, the other 12 followed suit and knelt down. The 9 Nether 13 evil pay respects to Sword Venerable Fudao. Li Shoyo said in a deep voice, not loud but clearly articulated. Guwen was surprised. Were these people specifically looking for him? No wonder their actions were strange, not like invaders. Guwen spoke. Give me a reason not to destroy you. These 13 should be ghost cultivators, shrouded in ghostly energy, but still possessing human chi blood and vitality. Li Shoyo answered, we are the 9 Nether 13 evil, sent by the Ghost Mother of Ephemera, to present the Immortal King Crown to Sword Venerable Fudao, to help the Venerable return to the position of Land Immortal. Ghost Mother of Ephemera? Guwen was even more astonished. The cultivation level of the Ghost Mother of Ephemera was even one small realm lower than the 9 Nether 13 evil. How could she command these people? Why? Guwen asked. He did not sense any hostility from these 13, indicating they might not be lying. Li Shoyo responded, this is the Ghost Mother's command. She has been comprehending your sword intent in the Supreme Sect for many years and discovered that you should have mastered the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword. This swordsmanship was promoted by the imperial family Li of the Taicang dynasty, but in fact, it was not created by the primordial ancestor of the Li family, but came from the immortal king of the Ephemera sect, who is the Ghost Mother's ancestor. Because of this, the Ghost Mother came to the Taicang dynasty, intending to find the ancestor's inheritance before the Ephemera sect annihilates the Taicang dynasty. 200 years ago, the Ghost Mother had come, but unfortunately, the descendants of the Li family were mediocre in talent, and no one could comprehend the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword, so the Ghost Mother could only lie dormant. Guwen's Taicang Divine Shocking Sword did come from the Li family, but he did not expect the primordial ancestor of the Li family to be related to the Ephemera sect. Does your Ghost Mother want to obtain the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword? Guwen asked. Li Shoyo replied, the Ghost Mother wants to invite you back to the Ephemera sect, to use the sword intent of the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword to reclaim the position of sect hierarch of the Ephemera sect. After hearing this, Guwen fell into silence. What kind of scheme was this? Driving away the tiger to swallow the wolf? Guwen pushed the coffin lid open with one hand, finding that the coffin was quite hard and concealed rich restrictions, probably also a magic artifact. His gaze fell on the skeleton in the coffin. Although it was lifeless, this skeleton was very sinister. To be safe, he still threw a lifespan detection at it. Evil Emperor, Mahayana Realm 5th Layer 7600/9999/9999. Good heavens. He could actually detect it, and its maximum lifespan was identical to Enhao's. Guwen's expression remained unchanged. He leaped up, landing on the edge of the coffin, overlooking the skeleton of the evil emperor. The 9 Nether 13 evil immediately knelt, remaining silent. Guwen's eyes suddenly opened wide and 2 cold lights shot out from his eyes. Boom! The skeleton of the evil emperor was instantly blasted into powder, turned into dust, leaving only the immortal king crown lying in the coffin, and the bottom of the coffin was also pierced by the breaking path divine light. The 9 Nether 13 evil raised their heads, glanced at it and then lowered their heads again. A prompt appeared in front of Guan. You have successfully taken 320 years of lifespan from the evil emperor, Mahayana realm 5th layer. Guan immediately felt a sigh of relief. Damn it. Almost scared to death. Who would have thought that this skeleton was still alive, and with a Mahayana realm 5th layer cultivation level? In that instant, Guan imagined many possibilities in his mind, even feeling that he had resolved a catastrophe for all living things. The name of the evil emperor did not sound like anything good. And still playing dead, hiding in a coffin, clearly harboring a world-shattering plot. Guan raised his hand, and the immortal king crown flew into his hand. He did not grab it directly but instead attached spiritual power to the immortal king crown, avoiding physical contact. He looked at Li Shoyo and asked, "Do you know the evil emperor?" Upon hearing this, Li Shoyo was momentarily stunned, then quickly said, "To be honest, this skeleton is indeed the remains of the evil emperor. 5,000 years ago, there was internal strife within the ephemera sect, and the evil emperor was plotted against by a villain, poisoned and unable to gather spiritual power. In desperation, he put on the immortal king crown and was instantly drained of vitality, turning into a skeleton. As a result, the immortal king crown was listed as a forbidden artifact by the ephemera sect, and no one dared to touch it. In that case, why do you dare to bring this thing to me?" Guan's tone revealed bone-chilling killing intent. Li Shoyo said calmly, "If one masters the Taicang Divine shocking sword, the immortal king crown would recognize its master upon sensing the sword intent. The one who created the crown is the same person who created the Taicang Divine shocking sword." Guan continued to ask, "What is the relationship between the ghost mother of ephemera and the evil emperor?" "The ghost mother is a descendant of the evil emperor. Why would she bring her ancestors' remains to me? Isn't she afraid of offending me? The ghost mother hates her own bloodline. When she was young, her father turned her into an evil ghost, so she looked for the descendants of the Li family. The Li family has nothing to do with her bloodline. The founding ancestor of the Li family was only a disciple of the ephemera sect. She wants others who inherit the Taicang Divine shocking sword to seize the position of sect hierarch of the ephemera sect and complete her revenge. How dare you be certain you could find me?" The ghost mother said that as long as we approach the outer gate city where the heavenly repair platform is located, you would detect us, even if we concealed our cultivation levels, because of the vast difference in cultivation levels. The energy concealing sorcery used by Li Shoyo and the others was indeed formidable, and only Guan could see through it. Until now they had not revealed a trace of their aura. Guan continued his questioning, and Li Shoyo answered one by one. After half an hour, Guan pondered, "I will accept the immortal king crown. You can leave now." Li Shoyo flipped his hand and took out a short flute saying, "This is the 9 Nether flute. As long as you blow it, we will come at once, waiting for your command. From now on, you are the sect hierarch of the ephemera sect, at least in our hearts." Guan raised his hand to take it, then used divine sense to inspect it. After confirming that there were no surveillance or reverse tracking restrictions inside, he put it into his storage bag. He jumped down from the coffin, signaling the 9 Nether 13 evil to leave. The 9 Nether 13 evil all saluted him before lifting the coffin and leaving. Guan did not immediately return to the valley but instead sat cross-legged under the tree, placing the immortal king crown in front of him. According to Li Shoyo, tens of thousands of years ago, there was an immortal dynasty in the mortal world, where everyone could practice immortal cultivation. At that time there was no emperor, and the ruler of the immortal dynasty called himself the immortal king, ruling over land immortals and gods. Later, the immortal dynasty met with calamity, with continuous natural disasters, cultivators encountering heart demons one after another, plagues spreading, leading to its extinction in just 10 years. The immortal king survived, but the immortal dynasty no longer existed. He did not dare to call himself an immortal anymore, not challenging the heavens' might. In the following years, his descendants founded the ephemera sect, with one of the hierarchs creating the Taicang Divine shocking sword. The sword intent shocked the heavens, bringing about a heavenly tribulation, hence its name. This hierarch believed he had reached the realm of his ancestor the immortal king, but still could not achieve immortality. So, as his life was reaching its end, he forged the immortal king crown with his own cultivation. This crown contained the power of the immortal king. Successive hierarchs studied it but couldn't subjugate it, only bringing misfortune upon themselves. Guan used divine sense to probe the immortal king crown, but even with a Mahayana realm 9th layer's cultivation, he could not penetrate it. He dared not test it with his own sword intent. Even if Li Shoyo was telling the truth, this method might not be genuine. After all, no one had succeeded before. After much thought, Guan felt that this item was too dangerous to keep around. He stood up, used the limitless freedom step and quickly arrived at the North Sea mountain. He dove directly to the bottom of the North Sea, buried the immortal king crown and the short flute in the seabed, and set restrictions on them. He planned to research them after breaking through several major levels in the future. After all, Guan did not need to rely on the power of the immortal king crown. After finishing everything, Guan quickly returned to Mystic Valley and continued celebrating with his disciples. After the 9 Nether 13 evil left, Guan's life returned to peace, and no one came to disturb him again. 3 years quickly passed. Guan reached 70 years of age. One day in Tianya Valley, Guan just finished picking medicinal herbs, feeling good, and personally took the herbs to the storehouse. As he exited the door, he saw LV Xian approaching. Seeing him, LV Xian's expression immediately became unnatural. Since being defeated by Guan, he had been cultivating madly with his cultivation level soaring. Now he had reached the 6th layer of the nascent soul realm. 99 years old and a 6th layer nascent soul. Very impressive. But LV Xian felt frustrated. Despite consuming so many elixirs, he still couldn't break through to the divinity transformation realm before 100 years old. Are you participating in the Golden List Conference? LV Xian asked as he drew near. Guan replied with a smile, why should I participate? My talent is so poor that attending would only bring embarrassment. LV Xian's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and said, I plan to participate. One night 3 years ago I suddenly felt much less pressure. These past 3 years I haven't been affected by heart demons or dreams. I might as well participate in the Golden List Conference to relax. Relax. Others were probably in for a tough time. Guan inwardly mocked, then sensed the residual soul aura within LV Xian. One residual soul was missing. Previously there were 7 souls, now only 6 remained. 3 years ago at night, Guan suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the evil emperor also left residual souls within LV Xian? This did not make sense. How could the evil emperor and LV Xian be related? The evil emperor was a long-dead hierarch of the ephemera sect, while LV Xian was the biological son of LV Badian. Wait, could LV Badian have a connection with the ephemera sect? Chapter 127. Path of Returning Primordial Spirit. Completely becoming a dragon. Guan was merely puzzled and had no intention of investigating LV Badian or LV Xian. No matter what these people's identities were or what conspiracy they might have, as long as it didn't affect him, he couldn't be bothered to care. The hearts of the people in this world were unpredictable. To investigate each one would be exhausting. Guan and LV Xian started to chat idly. Now, LV Xian was very respectful towards him and didn't dare to be even a little frivolous. They chatted for quite a while before Guan finally left. Everyone in the valley was already used to him not spending the night in Tianya Valley. After Guan left, LV Xian found Yi Luyun and began to spar in combat, preparing for the Golden Ranking Tournament. There were only 2 years left until the Golden Ranking Tournament. Years passed by and the 9 Dynasties lands welcomed peace, while the Supreme Sect's Golden Ranking Tournament drew the attention of people from all over the world, becoming a once-in-century grand event. 2 years later, as the Golden Ranking Tournament approached, cultivators could be seen soaring across the sky over Mystic Valley every day. Unlike before, the Supreme Sect dispatched many disciples to patrol and protect all outer sect servant disciples, maintaining their image as the true orthodox sect of the world. 72-year-old Guan was in the loft receiving Yilan. The first batch of disciples who went to train on the 9 Nether Road had all returned and were all preparing to participate in the Golden Ranking Tournament to bring glory to the Supreme Sect. Having not seen each other for many years, Yilan's temperament had become even more outstanding, showing the demeanor of a genius female cultivator. She remembered Guan's words and had been continually cultivating Taoist expansion skill, so her cultivation level hadn't increased. The two sat and chatted, with Yilan recounting the wonders of the 9 Nether Road, and Guan listened with keen interest. The 9 Nether Road, which was said to be a road, was actually more like a secret realm, with demons and ghosts running rampant, having its own unique ecosystem and producing many special heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Yilan said that she also encountered cultivators and members of the demon clan not from the 9 dynasties lands within the 9 Nether Road. From her descriptions, Guan envisioned many scenes in his mind and found them very interesting. After chatting for a full hour, Guan finally asked, "Will you be participating in the Golden Ranking Tournament?" Yilan nodded and said, "Yes, the elders gave me a post. All the 100 disciples from the 9 Nether Road must participate. The first Golden Ranking Tournament must be grand and cannot bring shame to the Supreme Sect." Guan blinked, feeling a bit helpless. Couldn't he send out the post he had in his hand? Shenzhen, Guyu, and Zuolin all had posts, and the disciples in the valley had mediocre aptitudes. Participating would be futile and only lead to suffering. "Senior brother, why don't you participate too? Although your cultivation level isn't high, your strength is far from simple," Yilan said with a light laugh, remembering that Guan's leg technique was very strong. Since Guan's cultivation level hadn't increased, he must have spent most of his time practicing his leg technique, which made his strength undoubtedly formidable. Guan helplessly replied, "I can't even beat you. Participating in the Golden Ranking Tournament would just be asking for trouble." After hearing this, Yilan didn't persuade him any further and started chatting about the affairs of the immortal cultivation world. It wasn't until evening that Yilan left Mystic Valley. Guan stood on the balcony, a smile on his face. Yilan's maximum lifespan had increased by a year, though insignificant. It showed that the Taoist expansion skill was indeed somewhat effective. Chu Jingfeng, Lu Jiujia, and Xiaochuan's maximum lifespans hadn't increased, probably due to their level of dedication, and the spiritual energy of the 9 Nether Road was far richer than that of Medicine Valley. Guan turned around and went back indoors to continue his study of the Wuxia Chronicles. This book had deepened Guan's understanding of formations, bringing him closer to becoming a true Mahayana cultivator. Mahayana cultivators were not only accomplished in their cultivation but also had rich life experiences and knowledge in various supplementary paths. Guan didn't need to cultivate so he could spend his time accumulating knowledge in other areas. That night, Guan sneaked to North Sea Mountain, hid under a tree and opened the lifespan barrier, then invested 5,000 years of lifespan into the Taoist expansion skill. Since the Taoist expansion skill was useful, he thought he would enhance it and see what happened. A series of notifications appeared crazily before Guan's eyes, and eventually, the Taoist expansion skill advanced to the Taoist mystic skill. It only took 2,000 years of lifespan for the Taoist expansion skill to advance to the Taoist mystic skill, and the remaining 3,000 years were just for enhancing its proficiency. Guan immediately invested another 5,000 years of lifespan. This time, after cultivating for 2,000 years, the Taoist mystic skill advanced to the primordial reincarnation skill. It had primordial in its name so quickly, indicating that the Taoist expansion skill itself had a high rank and grade. No wonder only Yilan and Wuxin had mastered it so far. Afterward, the primordial reincarnation skill allowed him to master a divine skill called the Path of Returning Primordial Spirit. Guan began to inherit the primordial reincarnation skill, and earth spirit energy surged into his body, a vast amount of memory flooded his mind. The primordial reincarnation skill contained the mysteries of the Taoist expansion skill and extended the profoundness of accumulating cultivation level to be passed on through lifetimes. After cultivating the primordial reincarnation skill, one's cultivation level would no longer increase. Instead, through accumulating spiritual power, one's aptitudes would transform. Unlike the Taoist expansion skill, it was no longer limited to one lifetime but could be repeated, and each time the accumulated cultivation level was greater, the transformation in aptitude would be more substantial. Moreover, the primordial reincarnation skill would form a soul imprint. After a cultivator's death and rebirth, the memory of this skill would awaken in adulthood in each lifetime, continuing to accumulate until reaching immortality or the soul's demise, where the path of reincarnation ceased. The path of returning primordial spirit was an extremely domineering sealing divine skill that could suppress a being's cultivation level to a certain realm or even completely seal them, turning them into a mortal spirit without any cultivation. This seal could only be unlocked using the path of returning primordial spirit. Even if powerful beings far surpassing Guan's capabilities tried to help, it would cause the spiritual power to run amok, making the sealed one's cultivation run wild and causing immediate death. Upon understanding this divine skill, Guan was very fond of it. He just happened to be lacking such a means. As for the primordial reincarnation skill, He considered it mastered, and he was not inclined to invest more time into it. He did not seek thousands of worlds, he only pursued this lifetime. But this skill could be taught to those he cared about. Through the memories of the primordial reincarnation skill, Guan learned a harsh truth. The 9 layers of immortal path, each layer harder than the last. The first layer was nirvana, a realm where mortal spirits transcended. Before reaching nirvana, lifespans could not exceed tens of thousands of years. Only after nirvana could one witness a fundamental transformation in life essence, drastically increasing lifespan. Guan suddenly realized that maximum lifespan might not just indicate aptitude but could also represent the maximum time each being had in this world, serving as a measure of one's life. For example, An Hao had nearly 10,000 years to pursue the nirvana realm, while Yilan had less than 200 years. The latter, even with multiple opportunities, would be in vain. The Taoist expansion skill could help Yilan extend her time in the world, but its effect was limited. Even if Yilan mastered the primordial reincarnation skill, her maximum lifespan would only increase several times at most. Guan slowly opened his eyes, his gaze deep. Heavenly Destiny. Summer arrived and the Supreme Sect's Golden Ranking Tournament commenced as scheduled. Participants in the Golden Ranking Tournament were all cultivators under 500 years old, and the Supreme Sect would test the bone age of the participants specifically. The post Liya had given to Guan for the Golden Ranking Tournament, he wasn't sure who to give it to, and didn't want to waste it, so he chose to register himself. At 72 years of age, he successfully registered with the eligibility of youth. The Golden Ranking Tournament was conducted in a one-on-one format, with no fixed duration, continuing until completion. The Supreme Sect would heal the injured participants to keep them in optimal condition. Special formations would be set up by the Supreme Sect to suppress the higher cultivations to the level of their opponents, ensuring fairness in terms of realm. When the Golden Ranking Tournament began, Guan was watching from the eaves of the outer sect, sitting with Yilan. Between them was a small table, accompanied by spirit melons, spirit fruits, and fine wine. From their perspective, a gigantic light screen was suspended in the air above the outer sect, reflecting the scenes of the combats within. Guan didn't recognize the two cultivators fighting but enjoyed the spectacle nonetheless. As Yilan peeled some fruit for Guan, she said, "Senior brother, the cultivation technique you passed to me is very difficult, much harder than the previous one. I wonder when I'll be able to master it." Guan replied, "Cultivating is never easy. The Taoist expansion skill could at most double one's maximum lifespan, while the primordial reincarnation skill could increase it several times. If Yilan could master it, living to 800 years this lifetime wouldn't be impossible. For someone with Yilan's aptitude, this was already a great blessing." Yilan smiled and said, "I will definitely master it, don't worry." At this moment, a thunderous uproar rose in the city. It turned out that the first combat had already concluded. The victor is Duan Su from the Flame Sect of the Great Zhao Dynasty. Gu Zong's voice resounded from the giant light screen, causing the whole city to buzz with discussion. Yilan looked at the screen and smiled. "Impressive." Guan nodded and then picked up his cup to drink. "Brother Gu." A voice came from the side. Guan and Yilan turned to see Wu Ju standing on a distant rooftop, looking at them with a very unpleasant expression. 5 years had passed, and Wu Ju was still at the 9th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm, but his chi blood was vastly different from before. Ignoring him for 5 years, his maximum lifespan must have skyrocketed, right? Guan felt like he was about to open a mystery box. He cautiously used lifespan detection on him. Wu Ju, Foundation Establishment realm, 9th layer, 74/350/7600, 7,600 years. Good grief. Now he had truly become a dragon. Wu Ju suddenly appeared on the rooftop where Guan and Yilan were, 7 steps away. He frowned and asked, "Who is this woman? Are you not being faithful to Miss Shen?" Upon hearing this, Yilan squinted her eyes at Guan and asked, "Who is Miss Shen?" Guan felt a headache coming on and immediately said, "This is my junior sister, Yilan. Miss Shen is nothing, how can she compare? I just have some dealings with Miss Shen, nothing more." Yilan's expression softened upon hearing this. Wu Ju angrily said, "Forget about Miss Shen, why didn't you come to see me after you were done?" Yilan was taken aback. She thought Wu Ju had something to do with Miss Shen and had come to stand up for her, but why did his tone suddenly change? Guan shook his head and said, "Why are you shouting so loud? I didn't want to disturb your cultivation. What, do you want to hit me?" Wu Ju's face turned red with anger and he muttered, "How could I hit you?" Yilan sensed that Wu Ju was not simple, and looking at his embarrassed demeanor, she became more curious about his relationship with Guan. Subsequently, Guan invited Wu Ju to sit down. Although reluctant, Wu Ju sat on the other side of Guan, junior sister. "This is my brother, named Wu Ju, who is also participating in the Golden Ranking Tournament," Guan introduced. Yilan nodded towards Wu Ju. Wu Ju scratched his head and said, "I can participate in the Golden Ranking Tournament thanks to Brother Gus' post." Yilan couldn't help but look at Guan, her eyes filled with suspicion. Senior brother's methods were quite impressive. He registered himself, but he could also get a post for someone else. Chapter 128. Three Pure Ones Mountain Divine Skills, so-called Fairness. Guan, Yilan, and Wu Ju drank wine and ate fruit while enjoying the battles of the Golden List tournament. In the previous days they didn't have any matches, so they watched the excitement. Yilan and Wu Ju became familiar with each other, and Wu Ju was no longer so awkward. It wasn't until the 5th day that it was Wu Ju's turn to participate in a match. As he left, Yilan asked curiously, "Senior brother, whose disciple is he? He seems quite extraordinary." She was well-traveled and knowledgeable enough to recognize Wu Ju's remarkable nature. After multiple bouts of path enlightenment, Wu Ju's temperament had already transformed. Even with ordinary looks and attire, he exuded an unforgettable aura. His master died and he has been an orphan since childhood. I befriended him immediately and am his only friend. I didn't visit him for 5 years on purpose, which is why he's so angry," Guan replied. After hearing this, Yilan felt a mix of pity and amusement for Wu Ju. She sighed, "Senior brother, you really are, what? Nothing." Yilan's gaze turned to the huge light screen in the sky, and Guan followed her gaze. The two people fighting in the light screen were no ordinary individuals. One was a young Taoist in a green robe, and the other a man in battle armor wielding a long weapon. With one glance, Guan could tell that both fighters' realms were higher than those before. The Taoist in green robes must be at the Divinity Transformation realm, while the man in battle armor was at the Void Crossing realm. Both were under 500 years old, making them top-notch talents. Surpassing the core formation realm couldn't be achieved by merely throwing resources at it. What was expected to be an exceptional battle ended abruptly when the green-robed Taoist raised a hand, formed a seal, and released a character radiating green light. It was a Dao character, 100 feet in both length and width, resembling a mountain, crashing into the armored man with incredible speed, causing him to cough blood and fly out, losing his combat ability directly. Even though the armored man was suppressed to the Divinity Transformation realm, losing so quickly still surprised Guan. From his perspective, the green-robed Taoist seal already had the essence of divine skills. Defeating his opponent in one move drew raucous reactions from the entire city. The winner is Sage Xian Miao from Taicang Dynasty's Three Pure Ones Mountain. An elder's voice echoed from the light screen, ensuring everyone remembered the green-robed Taoist's name. Yilan sighed, "Three Pure Ones Mountain is truly formidable. I've witnessed it before on the Nine Nether Road. It's Taicang Dynasty's primary sect, with few disciples but each is powerful. It's said they once produced an immortal, though the truth is unknown." Guan silently noted the sect's name. Sage Xian Miao's Taoist seal was indeed powerful, enough to showcase the deep-rooted foundation of Three Pure Ones Mountain's Taoist tradition. An hour later. Finally, it was Wu Ju's turn to make a move. The battles at the Foundation Establishment realm were not as exaggerated as those of Sage Xian Miao, so many were not very expectant. However, once Wu Ju threw a punch, the earth-shattering momentum immediately captured everyone's attention in the city. With each punch, it was like the sun bursting forth, the scorching fist wind making it hard for his opponent to counter. Each of Wu Ju's punches was full of power, extremely domineering. After 8 punches, his opponent was beaten to their knees, continuously coughing blood. The winner is Wu Ju from Supreme Sect of Taicang Dynasty. The city erupted in discussions starting to talk about Wu Ju. Yilan was stunned. She knew Wu Ju was exceptional but didn't expect him to be this formidable. Guan watched with a smile on his face, aware that Wu Ju's legendary journey was about to begin. That sunset fist was quite ordinary, but Wu Ju practiced it to a level of transformation, even exhibiting signs of advancement. Path enlightenment seemed to enhance his understanding of fist techniques. In the afternoon, within the Third Medicine Valley, Guan and LV Badian met in a pavilion. After months, LV Badian looked pleased and exuberant. He opened his right hand, revealing a pearl in his palm, and smiled. This is a supreme-grade magic artifact, the Thousand Shadow Pearl. In the next 2 days, refine it and then use it at the end of the month meeting. Guan accepted the Thousand Shadow Pearl and smiling bitterly asked, "Do you still want me to keep winning?" In recent days, some cultivators in the Golden List tournament had won using magic artifacts. According to the rules, each cultivator could only bring one magic artifact or formation to maintain fairness. Sword cultivators, blade cultivators, array repairers, and others had to use magic artifacts. Banning them would be unfair. Even with only one magic artifact allowed, instances of cultivators winning using magic artifacts had already led to criticism in various cities. LV Badian laughed. "I've already planned your opponents and combat times. There's still time. I don't expect you to become world famous, but getting close to the top 500 would lay a solid foundation." With talents from 9 dynasties gathered, the top 500 were naturally extraordinary individuals. Guan had intended to just have fun, but he didn't expect LV Badian to play it this way. Sect leader, fairness, don't forget these 2 words. Guan reminded helplessly. LV Badian's methods were never righteous. But then he thought again, LV Badian had always been this way, even his cultivation techniques were somewhat unorthodox. LV Badian nonchalantly said, "How is it unfair? Those descendants of noble families, which of them doesn't rely on their family resources? I'm giving you a magic artifact and they have their elders' support. Arranging your opponents is just to give you better luck without harming the opponents. The final outcome still depends on strength." Guan fiddled with the Thousand Shadow Pearl, feeling a bit hesitant. "As long as you enter the top 500, I'll reward you with a 6th order spirit tree," LV Badian said sternly. Hearing this, Guan immediately gripped the Thousand Shadow Pearl and said, "Well, since that's the case, I can only do my best." LV Badian stood up, smiling. "All right, refine the restrictions soon. The toughest ones have already been refined by me, the remaining ones won't trouble you." After that, he left the pavilion. Guan didn't see him off but instead stared at the Thousand Shadow Pearl in his hand, deep in thought. The Golden List tournament continued for several months, and Guan had to take care of Medicine Valley, so he didn't go to watch every day. Yilan and Wu Ju also needed to prepare for battles. Until the end of the month, Guan finally faced his opponent. The token exchanged for the Golden List token was a magic artifact used specifically to convey messages. That morning, the Golden List token emitted a sound, instructing him to wait nearby. Each outer gate city had the transmission array for the Golden List tournament, making it easy to find. After teleporting to the venue, Guan patiently waited. This was a vast valley, divided into 2 halves, one for the waiting area and the other for the combat area. The combat area spanned several miles, surrounded by formations isolated from the outside world. "Guan, you're participating too? Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up?" A light-hearted voice sounded. Guan didn't need to turn around to know that Shenzhen was walking toward him. Just trying," Guan said calmly. Recently, the storyline of Supreme Secret Records had annoyed him. The Guan in the book bullied weak girls. Although it was a misunderstanding, his actions were a bit domineering, which made him less fond of Shenzhen. Shenzhen seemed to understand this and didn't mind his attitude, instead laughing. "If you encounter me, I won't hold back. But if you speak nicely to me, I might just let you win." "A man of integrity, how can I allow you to insult me?" Guan glanced at her, sneering. Shenzhen chuckled, laughing out loud. She bumped Guan with her shoulder and said, "Don't be mad, the book will end soon. I'm getting tired of it. After the Golden List tournament, I'm going into seclusion for cultivation. You might not see me for decades." Hearing this, Guan's expression softened and he asked, "Did you gain some insight from the painting?" "Yes, I might attain enlightenment," Shenzhen said proudly, smiling. Such bragging. Guan started chatting with Shenzhen as they waited for his match. Suddenly, a woman teleported in, her aura catching Guan's attention. Ghost Mother of Ephemera. Why was she here again? Does she think there are no people in Supreme Sect? Coming and leaving as she pleases? Guan thought to himself, though he didn't look at the Ghost Mother of Ephemera. Although the Ghost Mother wanted to make him the sect hierarch, he still felt strongly against her. There was no helping it, she had even brought a void-crossing realm 5th layer evil creature before him. If he hadn't had lifespan detection, he wouldn't have noticed the evil emperor was not dead. Too dangerous. The Ghost Mother had transformed into another woman, seemingly using possession techniques. She also didn't pay attention to Guan, possibly not even remembering him. Half an hour later, Shenzhen won her match and was teleported out of the valley. Guan waited another hour for his turn. His opponent was weak, merely a core formation realm cultivator. Suppressed to the foundation establishment realm, Guan acted through several moves before using the Thousand Shadow Pearl to defeat him. To the spectators, the fight was quite dull, with only a few remembering Guan. Just like that. Summer passed and autumn arrived. Guan had 3 combat matches, winning narrowly each time. By now there were still 1,000 participants remaining. Supreme Sect didn't mind the time at all. During this period, Spirit Stone profits in each city doubled, making a massive profit. After 3 months of combat, a batch of geniuses had already emerged, the most illustrious being In Hao, unparalleled. He hadn't even used the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword, but used spells learned from Supreme Sect to overpower all opponents. Following were LV Xian, Sage Shen Miao, and other talents from various dynasties. Every dynasty among the 9 had someone renowned in the Golden List tournament. Ji Xiaoyu hadn't participated, but other Ji family disciples performed strongly. The Golden List tournament had spread across the 9 dynasties, capturing the attention of cultivators worldwide, significantly boosting Supreme Sect's reputation among the other 8 dynasties. Within the Taicang dynasty, the sects from other 8 dynasties also became famous, probably one of the reasons for their response. For Guan, the Golden List tournament was just a diversion, not caring much about the outcome. Initially finding it entertaining, his interest waned over time, leading him to focus on cultivation. On this day, a rumor spread before the Golden List tournament. In Hao versus Liya. Liya had also showcased his strength, proving himself, considered to have top 100 potential. Facing In Hao, who was assumed to claim the top spot, naturally drew much attention. Guan, in the 3rd Medicine Valley, heard disciples flying overhead on their swords, shouting announcements, and became interested, heading to the outer gate city to watch. He noticed disciples flocking to the outer gate city from all directions, making him sigh. LV Badian finally mastered the art of marketing. Guan too was expectant. Who was stronger, Liya or In Hao? Both seemed to have lives like Heavenly Destiny protagonists, though with different trajectories. Chapter 129. How do you also know the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword? At the combat arena. Liya, dressed in black, slowly took the North Sea heavy sword off his back. His expression was stern, his gaze fixated on the figure 100 feet away, eyes full of battle intent. His opponent was none other than In Hao. In Hao stood tall, dressed in splendid blue robes, a gold thread purple belt, his long hair coiled beneath a silver crown inlaid with a golden phoenix. He was adjusting his wrist guard, which was crafted finely. A breeze stirred the black locks at the sides of his cheeks, his smile was radiant. He raised his chin slightly, looked down on Liya, and said with a chuckle, "Previously you relied on the weight of that sword to defeat your enemies. This time your opponent is me, so don't think you can hide your strength." Liya asked, "And how old are you this year?" And Hao answered, 40 y. 40 years old, at the 9th layer of core formation. Liya fell silent, just hearing that invoked jealousy. He took a deep breath, raised the North Sea heavy sword and said, "Then let me see the prowess of the Supreme Sect's #1 genius." As his words fell, he stepped forward, and in 3 steps he was slashing at In Hao, the heavy North Sea heavy sword raising a gust of wind. In Hao used his right hand, 2 fingers forming a sword chi emanating from his fingertips, countering Liya's sword moves. Sword lights flickered, sword chi sword, their figures intertwined, engaging in a fierce and swift battle, drawing waves of cheers from the outer gate city. Guan stood on the eaves looking up at the fight. Wu Ju suddenly appeared beside him, also gazing up at the light screen. He marveled, "These two are incredible. Of course they are the renowned geniuses of the Supreme Sect." Guan replied. Both In Hao and Liya were in the core formation realm, but the battle they demonstrated was far more exciting than other core formation geniuses' battles. Liya's force was huge and powerful, like he could split mountains and rivers. And Hao was light and graceful, facing Liya's sword moves with great ease. Their movements were extremely fast. Most of the disciples in the outer gate city couldn't keep up. They kept maneuvering. Only the sword light could mark their positions. Clang. And Hao flipped and swung his arm, the sword chi on his fingers pressing down on Liya's legs, the North Sea heavy sword shaking above his head, showing In Hao's immense chi. Liya didn't expect In Hao to match his strength, even though he had consumed the dragon image divine primordial. increasing his pressure. Boom. A terrifying sword intent burst out, sending In Hao flying. He flipped in the air and landed steadily 100 feet away. In Hao looked at Li Ya in astonishment, then followed with a wild smile. The battle light screen transmitted part of the battle pressure, allowing the spectators to know the fight was real. Once Li Ya's sword intent was released, the entire Supreme Sect was thrilled. This is the sword intent of Sword Venerable Fudao. Li Ya has received the inheritance of Sword Venerable Fudao? I've stayed at the Heavenly Repair platform for days. This is definitely the sword intent of Sword Venerable Fudao. Li Ya is so powerful, I didn't expect the strongest among the royal disciples to be him. He's much stronger than his sister Li Xuanyu. The city Guan was and also erupted in a thunderous uproar. Countless people were amazed by the Taicang Divine shocking sword unleashed by Li Ya. Wu Ju felt the sword intent and sighed, so powerful I feel like it won't be easy to win against him. Guan glanced at him. Just not easy? Entwined in the sword intent, Li Ya straightened, raising his sword to point at In Hao, his black hair fluttering and black robes rustling. His entire demeanor changed dramatically, his expression became more severe. The battle only truly begins now. Li Ya said coldly. He didn't expect to be forced to use the Taicang Divine shocking sword so early, blaming his own bad luck for encountering In Hao prematurely. When he unleashed the Taicang Divine shocking sword, he felt the battle was over. Although In Hao had yet to unleash powerful spells, no spell could match the Taicang Divine shocking sword. In Hao's comprehension of sword intent was kept secret. Li Ya, who was often away, had no clue about In Hao's combat techniques. However, seeing In Hao smiling, Li Ya felt puzzled. This guy's gone mad? In Hao patted his robe, his smile growing. Boom. An overwhelming sword intent surpassed Li Ya's, shaking the entire valley. Violent sword chi condensed into a giant face above In Hao, looking down at Li Ya. Before this giant sword chi face, Li Ya looked insignificant, his sword chi trivial. Impossible. How do you also know the Taicang Divine shocking sword? Li Ya shouted in disbelief. In the outer gate city, countless people gasped. Even In Hao had received the inheritance of Sword Venerable Fudao. The ghost mother of ephemera on the Heavenly Repair platform looked at the light screen in the sky, her brows furrowed, her eyes also showing shock. The Taicang Divine shocking sword, which had disappeared for thousands of years, reappeared in the mortal world, and 3 inheritors emerged at once? The ghost mother of ephemera, well aware of the Taicang Divine shocking sword's origins, was also taken aback, her respect for Sword Venerable Fudao growing. She could tell these two, wielding the Taicang Divine shocking sword, were certainly related to Sword Venerable Fudao. In the light screen, In Hao soared into the air, looking down on Li Ya, said with a smile, "Since we are from the same lineage, let's see whose sword intent is stronger." He raised his right hand, palm facing Li Ya, his smile fading. When Li Ya used the Taicang Divine shocking sword, In Hao felt a sense of kinship, recognizing Li Ya as a fellow disciple. But even among brothers he would not hold back. In Hao was born to be the strongest. All opponents must submit at his feet. In Hao's eyes focused, the giant sword chi face's eyes widened, countless sword shadows shot out like a river of stars, unstoppable. Li Ya gripped his sword with both hands, slashing down with his strongest sword move. He gritted his teeth, his face twisted, and shouted in his heart, "I cannot lose." The two sword intents collided, sword light enveloping the whole city. Wu Ju's face was lit up by the sword light, he was stunned. "And how is so strong am not a match," Wu Ju murmured. If his opponent was Li Ya, he might have some confidence, but In Hao's strength left him feeling hopeless. Guan watched the battle with a blank expression. The progress of In Hao and Li Ya pleased him, but knowing Li Ya would soon be seriously injured dampened his mood. He even suspected LV Badian purposely orchestrated this, as LV Badian always disliked Li Xiandao, so he arranged for In Hao to target Li Zuando's favorite son? Regardless, Li Ya's journey ended here, not even breaking the top 500. After a few breaths, the sword's power dissipated. The ground shattered, Li Ya lay there covered in blood, his black robes torn apart, no strength left to stand up. The winner is In Hao from the Taicang Dynasty's Supreme Sect. As the elder announced the result, the entire city burst with excitement, praising In Hao's might. Previously, In Hao had never displayed such powerful sword techniques but always defeated his enemies with ease. This time, everyone witnessed In Hao's sword chi and spiritual power, looking nothing like a core formation cultivator, more like a nascent soul cultivator. Guan looked at Wu Ju and said, if you face An Hao, do not confront him head-on. In the same realm, anyone facing An Hao would be eliminated. Even multiple path enlightenments couldn't help Wu Ju against him. Among all the participants, likely only Guan could defeat An Hao, but he had no intention to, and LV Badian wouldn't allow it to happen. You too, Wu Ju muttered. Guan smiled. This kid was interesting. The news of An Hao receiving the inheritance of Sword Venerable Fu Dao spread like a whirlwind, sweeping across the immortal cultivation world. As for the defeated Li Ya, many thought he only comprehended the sword intent at the heavenly repair platform, and was not the true inheritor of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Though both wielded the Taicang Divine shocking sword, his sword intent paled compared to An Hao's. An Hao's famed sword, while Li Ya was quickly forgotten. After his defeat, Li Ya did not seek out Guan, likely recuperating and brooding in his cave. 10 days later. In Qinya Valley, Guan met Li Xiandao. She had once suspected that Guan himself was Sword Venerable Fu Dao, but the cultivation realm displayed by Sword Venerable Fu Dao was too high, and Guan's age did not match. Guan did not refute, as this explanation was perfect. He raised his right hand and conjured over a storage bag, handing it to Yilan. Take this back and train well. Yilan did not check the contents and instead fastened the storage bag to her belt, then stood up. By the way, senior brother, keep your distance from senior brother Li Ya for a while. The upper echelon is currently investigating all disciples of the Li family within the sect, with unclear intentions but undoubtedly no good purpose. Guan looked puzzled but nodded as he rose to see his junior sister off. The investigation of the Li family disciples within the Supreme Sect did not concern Guan much, as this was not the first time such a thing had happened. Though the Supreme Sect was the leading righteous sect of the Taicang dynasty, internal strife was never-ending. As for whether it would harm Li Ya, Guan had no means to worry over that. He couldn't possibly keep an eye on Li Ya at all times. Everyone has their own life, and no matter how good or bad, as long as they get through it, it belongs to their own experiences. A few days later, Guan went to participate in the Golden List Grand Assembly. Against his opponent, he directly conceded, stunning his opponent. A month later, the top 100 emerged. Only Wu Ju had the cultivation level of the Foundation Establishment realm. All other cultivators' minimum level was the Core Formation realm. This news quickly spread, making Wu Ju famous. When LV Badian delivered a 6th-rank spirit tree, Guan mentioned Wu Ju, hoping LV Badian could find a good mentor for Wu Ju. This made LV Badian look at Guan with admiration. Such a good prospect found by you in advance, and you still say you are unfit to be the sect leader? LV Badian said with a smile. Guan smiled and responded, just a stroke of fate. The Supreme Sect has many geniuses. This doesn't speak to my vision, but to the abundant foundations and great fortune of the Supreme Sect. LV Badian was very satisfied with Guan's rhetoric. Regardless of whether it was genuine, it was very suitable for a sect leader. Regarding Wu Ju, I can't promise anything. He has already become a disciple of Zhou Yu. Understand that taking An Hao as a disciple was already a major move that met with opposition. I cannot take on any more genius disciples. The Supreme Sect is not a place for one person's dictation, LV Badian explained meaningfully. Zhou Yu, one of the Supreme Sect's venerable pavilion, had more power than the Hall of Elders. Becoming his disciple meant Wu Ju had a limitless future. Guan then thought of that true inheritor-disciple who was not in a mentor-disciple relationship with LV Badian, effectively counterbalancing him. It seemed that in the Supreme Sect, even accepting disciples involved a consideration of interests. Of course, the main reason was that LV Badian was not strong enough, at least not to the extent where he could suppress the 3 great families single-handedly. I plan to take action against the Li family, but rest assured I won't harm Li Ya, LV Badian continued. Hearing this, Guan immediately raised his hand to salute him. LV Badian waved his hand. After the Golden List Grand Assembly, the Supreme Sect will soar. However, potential crises remain, not to mention the ephemera sect main lineage on the other end of the Nine Nether Road. There are also those within the 9 dynasties looking to scheme against the Supreme Sect. To avoid unnecessary trouble, I will visit your Medicine Valley less often. Do not indulge any further, practice diligently, understand? He felt somewhat helpless as he spoke these last words. He had already passed on the Defying Fate divine skill to Guan but saw no significant results. Guan nodded and said, I will manage Medicine Valley well and not disappoint the Supreme Sect. Hearing this, LV Badian gave him a final glare before rising to leave. Guan hurried to see him off. Heavy snow had already blanketed the third Medicine Valley, and the flying snow threatened to engulf everything. LV Badian's figure soon vanished into the vast snow. Time flew by. Another Chinese New Year arrived, and the Golden List Grand Assembly concluded the day before Chinese New Year. In the evening, Guan went to Mystic Valley to spend the festival with the disciples. Zhen Qin had just returned from the outer sect and was discussing the Golden List Grand Assembly rankings with the disciples. After the assembly, the Supreme Sect would publish a book recording the life stories of the top 100, symbolizing authority in a way. Winning first place was Hao without any suspense. The second place was not LV Xian but Sage Xian Miao from Three Pure Ones Mountain. The duel between Sage Xian Miao and Hao had become legendary, and the name of Three Pure Ones Mountain reverberated throughout the Taicang dynasty. LV Xian ranked third and was likely depressed. The rest were mostly aristocratic geniuses, with the Zhou, Gu and Ji families occupying 30% of the top 100. The dominance of the three great families was evident. Wu Ju, with his foundation establishment realm, made it into the top 20 but was severely defeated by Hao when they met, although he had proven himself and became a bona fide genius. Sitting down, Guan listened to the disciples excitedly discuss the Golden List Grand Assembly, showing an interested look. The disciples also flattered him, feeling honored that he made it into the top 500. Master, I have to go out on a mission tomorrow. It might take 2 or 3 years before I return. Zhen Qin, sitting beside Guan, spoke while Guan's thoughts drifted away. The high-rank medicinal herbs in the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion should be ripening. 7 days after the Chinese New Year, Guan went to the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion that night. After harvesting the ripened medicinal herbs and gaining nearly 20,000 years of lifespan, he began sowing seeds again. After years of management, the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion was filled with medicinal herbs, all of at least 4th rank. They were now continuously providing him with lifespan. With the current medicine valleys alone, Guan saw the gate to a lifespan of millions of years approaching. He had already started pondering about breakthroughs. Reaching the Mahayana realm almost drained the spiritual energy of the North Sea Mountain, so the next breakthrough must be in a place with more spiritual energy. For the next breakthrough, Guan needed at least 5 million years worth of lifespan. He was eager to see what realm he could reach. After sowing, Guan sat at the stone table, poured himself some tea, and enjoyed his leisure time while spreading his divine sense to observe the North Sea Mountain's activities. The North Sea Mountain was an excellent training ground for cultivators. With the initiation of the Golden List Grand Assembly, the passage of various sects cultivators through the area had intensified the conflicts there. Guan suddenly noticed a battle with one participant catching his attention. Sage Xian Miao from Three Pure Ones Mountain. This genius who outperformed LV Xian left a deep impression on Guan. At this moment, several dozen cultivators were besieging Sage Xian Miao. Under the night sky, the wind raged and various spells fell endlessly, ravaging the land and forests. Sage Xian Miao held a sword in his right hand and a horsetail whisk in his left. Behind him, a Dharma aspect with 3 heads and 6 arms materialized. Despite being surrounded by several divinity transformation realm cultivators, he remained unfazed. This 3-headed, 6-armed Dharma aspect contained spiritual power far exceeding that of Sage Xian Miao, and its 6 arms could cast different spells. An impressive divine skill. Guan sipped his tea while appreciating the battle. Those dozens of cultivators were no match for Sage Xian Miao, but a void-crossing realm great cultivator was lurking in the shadows, making Sage Xian Miao's situation dire. Guan had no intention of intervening as he had no interest in others' grudges and feuds. Even if Sage Xian Miao died there, it would only show that his chi fortune was insufficient. Guan saved only those connected to him. 30 minutes later, the hidden void-crossing realm great cultivator made a move, launching a sneak attack that shattered Sage Xian Miao's Dharma aspect, causing him to vomit blood and be flung into the forest. Seeing this, the injured divinity transformation realm cultivators heaved sighs of relief and then praised the void-crossing realm great cultivator. Just as Guan thought Sage Xian Miao was doomed, he sensed something and raised an eyebrow. In the forest where Sage Xian Miao had fallen, a strong wind arose, uprooting trees and sending them into the night sky. Sage Xian Miao sat in the ruins surrounded by azure runes. These runes emitted beams of azure light, which gathered above him to form a grand door. The door slowly opened, releasing a desolate aura that caused the void-crossing realm great cultivator's face to change drastically as he turned to flee. "Where are you running?" An ancient voice echoed across the heavens and earth. Chapter 131. Can Sword Venerable Fudao withstand Mahayana power? Along with the mysterious voice echoing between heaven and earth, the azure door boomed open, and a giant hand stretched out, grabbing the escaping great cultivator of the void-crossing realm from a distance. The great cultivator of the void-crossing realm was almost scared to death. He struggled desperately but could not break free. He even tried to let his primordial spirit emerge from his body but found in despair that his primordial spirit couldn't leave. Who are you?" The great cultivator of the void-crossing realm shouted in fear. The mysterious giant hand suddenly squeezed, crushing him into a mist of blood. His primordial spirit and golden core were completely annihilated, no longer existing. The other cultivators in the divinity transformation realm fled in panic, but the mysterious giant hand did not strike again and just slowly withdrew into the azure door. Under the night sky, the wind was still raging. Sage Shen Miao's aura began to dissipate, and the azure door above his head vanished along with it. Sage Shen Miao spat out a mouthful of reversed blood, and his entire state rapidly became lethargic. He continued to cultivate energy to regulate his breath. Far away in the Mystic Heaven Cave mansion, Guan played with his teacup, his face showing a look of curiosity. The mysterious giant hand just now was definitely of the Mystic Heart realm and above the 5th layer. No wonder Sage Shen Miao dared to come alone to the Golden List conference. He had a method to summon help. Guan was very interested in this divine skill. This divine skill was not only imposing but also protected the younger generation. Even he, this sword venerable Fudao, was tempted. At the same time he was also full of curiosity about the Three Pure Ones Mountain. The Three Pure Ones Mountain actually hid a great power above the 5th layer of the Mystic Heart realm. Although it was not in the Mahayana realm, it was enough to surprise Guan. The land of the 9 dynasties certainly hid countless talents. No wonder the ephemera sect previously only dared to wreak havoc in the Taicang dynasty instead of sweeping across the 9 dynasties directly. Guan heard from Yilan that the disciple count of the Three Pure Ones Mountain was not high, barely over 1,000 people, yet such a small number was enough to make it the first sect of the Qintang dynasty, which showed how many great cultivators were in the Three Pure Ones Mountain. The Qintang dynasty was also not simple. The dynasty was named Qintang because the previous Tiantang dynasty once nearly unified the land of the 9 dynasties. Later, the emperor committed deeds that enraged both heaven and humans, causing heaven to send down a great rain that flooded the entire dynasty, leading to a power shift within the dynasty. The Qintang dynasty had the most lakes, and the majority of its cities and sects were on islands. Although the great rain drowned an entire dynasty, it also caused the spiritual energy of the Qintang dynasty to surge, being shrouded in spirit mist all year round. Among the 9 dynasties, the Qintang dynasty was the most mysterious and had the most legends. Many people believed that immortals were hidden among the islands of the Qintang dynasty. Guan retracted his gaze. Although he was very interested in Sage Shen Miao's divine skill, he was too lazy to make acquaintances or stir up trouble. Only being superior to the opponent by one major realm prevented Guan from being complacent. Be cautious in development, don't be reckless. 1,000 years later, how many levels above the 9 dynasties would he be? He was looking forward to it. Dark clouds covered the sky. On the ground, mountains undulated, and each piece of forest seemed like a gathering of demons and ghosts. A gigantic palace nestled between 2 mountains with red pillars and bloody eaves appeared so terrifying. Inside the grand hall, a group of black-robed individuals knelt on the ground. Some were humans, some demons, and some soul bodies. The man kneeling at the front wore a mask, making it impossible to see his true face. He said, "Sect Hierarch, the combined forces of the 9 dynasties have entered the 9 Nether Road, affecting our grand plan. Should we retreat or continue to lie low?" His voice was hoarse, and as he spoke, ghostly air exuded from under his mask. On the steps in front of him stood a burly figure draped in a large black robe, with a blood dragon coiled on the robe, baring its fangs and claws, as if ready to leap out at any moment. His white hair gently swayed, and he wore a crown of bones, with 2 slender, extremely sharp horns that glinted coldly atop it. He was the sect hierarch of the main lineage of the ephemera sect, named Butcher Immortal Jing. Butcher Immortal Jing slowly turned around, revealing a pale and indifferent face. His pupils were blood red, and there were 2 evil ghosts marked on his forehead. The 2 evil ghosts shared one body, which was pitch black and had sharp claws, making people shiver. The 9 dynasties laughable. They actually dare to step into the 9 nether road. They are courting death. Butcher Immortal Jing said coldly, a gust of cold wind blowing into the hall, causing the robes of all the followers to flutter. A black-robed follower with a white tiger head spoke, each of the 9 dynasties has great cultivators in the mystic heart realm, and the supreme sect's sword Venerable Fudao is even more unfathomable. It's unlikely we can annex the 9 dynasties before the demon catastrophe. Another soul body in black robes followed up. Our sect's golden spirit Venerable and night cultivator Fairy both died at the hands of sword Venerable Fudao. He is the biggest obstacle to our annexation of the 9 dynasties. His cultivation is at least above the 5th layer of the mystic heart realm, and it's very likely he has reached the 8th floor. Rumble, the deep sound of thunder came from outside the hall, as if some fierce beast was roaring. Humph, mystic heart realm 8th floor? Then tell me, can sword Venerable Fudao withstand the Mahayana power? Butcher Immortal Jing said contemptuously, his white hair fluttering, and the blood light in his eyes flashed fiercely. Mahayana power. The masked man at the front responded, there has been no Mahayana heavenly tribulation in the land of the 9 dynasties for nearly 10,000 years. Naturally he is not your opponent. But if you take action, will it affect your healing? Who asked you all to be so incompetent? Prepare to gather the followers. Once they are assembled, follow me to sweep across the land of the 9 dynasties, and remember to bring the origin tree of ephemera. Butcher Immortal Jing said expressionlessly. These words caused an uproar in the hall. Sect Hierarch, you wouldn't intend to directly, the masked man's hoarse voice revealed a nervous emotion. My decision is made, you may leave. Butcher Immortal Jing waved his sleeve and walked into the darkness. The followers of the ephemera sect in the hall looked at each other. It was another night. Guan once again arrived at the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. It had already been half a month since his last visit. He first picked medicinal herbs, then planted seeds. After doing all this as usual, he didn't leave in a hurry but planned to stay alone here for half the night, enjoying the tranquility. He walked to the old tree next to the wooden house and jumped onto the hammock he wove half a month ago. He twisted his body and chose a comfortable position to lie down. Comfortable? Guan revealed a satisfied smile, took out a travelogue and started browsing. Recently he had gone to the inner sect and bought many travelogues, 1 to pass the time, and 2 to see if there were any places better suited for breakthroughs than the North Sea Mountain. The cave mansion was quiet, and from time to time, fish sprang out of the underground lake, with their movements echoing in the cave mansion, creating a unique atmosphere. He read until the latter half of the night before putting the travelogue down and spreading out his divine sense to see if there was any movement in the North Sea Mountain tonight. Every time he came, he would overlook the North Sea Mountain, which had become a habit. Soon, Guan was attracted by Sage Xian Miao. This guy still hadn't left. He saw Sage Xian Miao building a simple monastery in a deep mountain, inside which, besides Sage Xian Miao, there was also a young boy. What was he doing? Guan looked carefully and saw Sage Xian Miao meditating in front of a large cauldron, with wisps of green smoke rising from the top of his head. And that boy was practicing in the nearby hut. The boy was actually a demon with a foxtail growing. Interesting. Guan watched for a while and then retracted his gaze. When dawn was about to break, Guan returned to Mystic Valley. In the blink of an eye, half a year quickly passed. At the end of summer, after a heavy rain, Mystic Valley was very muggy. On this morning, Leah came to visit Guan, once again entering through the window. Guan had to cooperate with him to pretend to be startled. Look at your timid look, you are at least in the top 500 on the golden list. Leah snorted softly after landing. Guan got up to greet him and said, my being in the top 500 was just luck. You could have made it into the top 10, but unfortunately you met Hao in advance. Upon hearing this, Li Ya's mouth twitched. He suspected Guan was deliberately pricking him, but seeing Guan's expression of regret, it was hard to retort. Little did he know Guan did it on purpose. He stepped on my windowsill again. Leah walked to the desk, pulled out a chair and sat down. He said, I am leaving. Where to? How long? Guan asked casually, then walked to the tea set and started brewing tea. Leah replied, Father Emperor wants me to go to 3 Pure Ones Mountain in the Taicang Dynasty for training. It will probably take decades to return. Again the 3 Pure Ones Mountain. What kind of close relationship did Li Xiandao have with Three Pure Ones Mountain? They even sent 2 people. Guan couldn't help but say, then it's definitely worth going. After all, the disciple of the Three Pure Ones Mountain earned the 2nd place on the golden list. Sage Shen Miao is indeed formidable. Even if I fought him, I might not be his match. Liya agreed. In the Golden List conference, Sage Shen Miao was the only one who could withstand a 30-minute fight against An Hao. Guan came to the desk with the brewed tea and said, when you go to Three Pure Ones Mountain, you must practice diligently. Don't meddle in too many affairs and end up injured. Cough, cough. Apart from being injured by An Hao, I really haven't been injured over the years. Really? Would I lie to you? The two began to chat casually, sometimes talking about Mystic Valley, sometimes about the Golden List. It wasn't until noon that Liya stood up and said, I should be leaving. Junior brother Gu, I hope that when I come back your cultivation will improve. Entering the top 500 on the Golden List is not just luck. I believe you already have your own opportunities, but don't waste the years and strive to catch up with senior brother me as soon as possible. After saying that, Liya quickly walked to the window, jumped out, and left another footprint on the windowsill. Definitely on purpose. Guan was helpless. Liya usually seemed very serious. Why did he always play childish tricks on him? He looked out the window, his eyes becoming profound. Li Xiandao sending Liya away at this time, could there be other reasons? And the soul body within Liya, why had it become so weak? It seemed like it could dissipate at any moment. Guan shook his head, unable to figure it out. He decided not to bother thinking about it. Until nightfall. Guan once again arrived at the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. As he was about to pick medicinal herbs, he couldn't help but frown. Why was Sage Shen Miao around? The monastery of Sage Shen Miao was 8,000 miles away from here. Coming here could not be a coincidence. At the same time, in the forest 10 miles away, Sage Shen Miao held a compass in his hand, advancing while muttering to himself, it should be around here. I don't know what kind of blessing it is. Chapter 132 Mountain God, Ill-Fated Relationship. Guan heard Sage Shen Miao's muttering, which left him silent. Did he come seeking fortune and find my home? His gaze fell on the compass in Sage Shen Miao's hand, curious about what kind of treasure could locate fortune, far surpassing his white spirit rat. Since the appearance of the mystic pure tree, the white spirit rat had been napping all day, no longer venturing out to search for treasures, essentially becoming useless. The forest in the deep night was eerie and quiet, with a faint mist swirling among the woods. Although Sage Shen Miao could see the shadows of ghosts drifting by, he remained unmoved. Whoosh, a gust of wind blew from the front, causing Sage Shen Miao's robes to flutter, making him squint. The land of the mountain god, mortals are forbidden to enter. A mysterious and ethereal voice emerged, causing Sage Shen Miao to halt his steps. He looked around, unable to detect the speaker's presence, not even with his divine sense. Sage Shen Miao was certain he hadn't misheard, so he cupped his hands and said, this humble Taoist hails from Three Pure Ones Mountain of the Taicang dynasty, a sole disciple of the Taicang lineage, Li Xuanmiao. Li Xuanmiao, Li Xiandao. Guan wouldn't believe they were unrelated even if beaten to death. The name Three Pure Ones also made Guan think of the Three Pure Ones in Wuxia's Taoist myths from his previous life, wondering if there was any connection. It should be unrelated. Otherwise, writing Investiture of the Gods would have already caused trouble. Perhaps the Tao of the Three Pure Ones illuminates myriad heavens, showing signs of Three Pure Ones in both this world and the Wuxia world? Guan's thoughts raced, not answering immediately. Sage Shen Miao continued, this humble Taoist seeks fortune, wondering if I might have the honor of meeting the mountain god? He didn't seem to doubt Guan's words, making Guan ponder. Could mountain gods truly exist, making Sage Shen Miao find it unsurprising? This made Guan suddenly want to get to know Sage Shen Miao, to increase his understanding of this world. Why seek the mountain god? Guan's voice echoed again, its source still elusive. Sage Shen Miao replied, mortal immortals and gods are elusive. If I could meet one, it would be life's fortune. Of course, this humble Taoist also has a personal desire. Meeting the mountain god pleased him greatly, more meaningful than finding a treasure. With his cultivation at the divinity transformation stage, he scanned all directions, unable to find the other party, indicating their cultivation level was vastly superior, whether or not they were a mountain god. The fact that the other party didn't attack him directly suggested they weren't a great evildoer. Whether a mountain god or not, they were worth befriending. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew in his face, stirring up fallen leaves, forcing Sage Shen Miao to raise his hand to shield himself. When the wind passed, Sage Shen Miao looked ahead, his pupils suddenly narrowing, face full of astonishment. Following his gaze, there stood a small white-clad figure on a large tree in front. That's right. A small figure. Only 3 inches high, easily held with one hand. This figure wore white clothes and a theatrical mask, looking extremely mysterious. This white-clad figure was Guan, who used the Great and Minor Rui divine power to shrink himself. Great and Minor Rui was a divine power awakened through the primordial Rui skill. His energy-concealing skill evolved from the energy-nurturing skill. Sage Shen Miao immediately knelt on one knee, raising his hand in salute, saying, "Li Xuanmiao pays respects to the mountain god." He could feel this wasn't an illusion. It was his first time seeing such a small person, making him instantly believe the other was a mountain god. After all, he had never seen either spell or divine power that could shrink a person, only spells that drew people into small spaces. Guan leaped on the branches, reaching the branch's end to overlook Sage Shen Miao, asking, "What is the treasure in your hand?" He cast a lifespan detection. Sage Shen Miao, Divinity Transformation Stage 5th Level 198/900/4500 4500 years as his maximum lifespan? A bit inconsistent with his performance. The legacy of 3 Pure Ones Mountain seemed strong. Sage Shen Miao hurriedly replied, "This is a treasured family heirloom of my 3 Pure Ones Mountain passed down through generations. As long as I carry it, once my chi fortune connects with the treasure, it will guide me to my destined fortune, accelerating my growth process." As he said this, he smiled. Destiny led him to meet the mountain god. Guan wondered if Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion rightfully belonged to Sage Shen Miao. Very likely so. If not for his golden finger akin to a system, he wouldn't have come to the North Sea Mountains to undergo tribulation, nor would he have cracked open Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. Thus, it wouldn't naturally belong to him. Thinking this way, it seemed Guan had taken Sage Shen Miao's opportunity. Sage Shen Miao continued, "Senior Mountain God, I just accepted a disciple, but he is poisoned. I can't cure him. Could you take a look?" He was initially seeking fortune but hadn't expected to encounter a mountain god. Since gods existed, they should help alleviate his worries. Guan remained silent, left hand touching his chin, right hand holding his left elbow, swaying contemplatively as he looked at Sage Shen Miao. Sage Shen Miao understood, his right hand flipping to reveal a lingji in his palm, which he offered with both hands, saying, "This is a 6th grade earth spirit lingji, hoping the mountain god likes it." Guan lifted a hand to capture the lingji in his grasp. This earth spirit lingji was larger than his entire body, making him look quite comical as he held it. Sage Shen Miao didn't find it amusing, rather he found it endearing. The behavior and thoughts of immortals and gods shouldn't be speculated or defined by mortals. "Bring your disciple here at this time tomorrow night," Guan said. Sage Shen Miao immediately expressed his gratitude. When he raised his hand again, Guan had already vanished. He smiled, getting up to leave without pressing forward, which made Guan feel satisfied. At the very least, Sage Shen Miao didn't seem like a deeply scheming or overly calculative person. When Guan had previously inspected Sage Shen Miao, he had seen his demonic disciple and identified the type of poison in him. Fortunately, he could cure it. Once Sage Shen Miao was far away, Guan returned to the 8 scenic caves to begin alchemy. He took out the ephemeral flower he had kept for a long time, placed it into the pill furnace, and then conjured Taicang True Fire to ignite the dry firewood under the furnace. Suddenly a thought struck him. Could the alchemy technique of Mystic Valley also be derived from 3 Pure Ones Mountain, capable of producing Taicang True Fire? Quite possible. The next night, Sage Shen Miao brought his disciple to the same misty forest. The fox demon boy was very nervous, clinging to Sage Shen Miao, eyes constantly scanning the surroundings, fearing evil spirits would appear. Sage Shen Miao raised his robe hem and knelt, making the fox demon boy kneel as well. After kneeling for a while, a gust of wind blew. A thumb-sized pill rolled to Sage Shen Miao's knees. He couldn't help but pick it up. "Let your disciple take it." Guan's voice floated by, and Sage Shen Miao, without hesitation, had the fox demon boy swallow it. The pill melted instantly in the mouth. Sage Shen Miao held the fox demon boy's wrist to carefully sense, soon showing a delighted expression. He looked up and asked, "May I ask, Mountain God, what poison afflicted my disciple?" "The poison of the ephemeral flower." He must have visited the ephemeral flower's habitat and inadvertently ingested it, Guan replied from a tree branch. The fox demon boy stared wide-eyed at the tiny mountain god. Upon hearing this, Sage Shen Miao's face darkened, gritting his teeth. The ephemera sect has brought harm for millennia, its sins unforgivable. Guan squatted on the branch, observing them, and said, "Your disciple is saved. You should leave now. Remember, do not reveal my existence to anyone or I will come for you." Sage Shen Miao raised his head, saying, "Mountain God, could you teach me the ultimate skill to become the world's strongest? I am willing to exchange everything I have." Being defeated by An Hao had become his deep-seated issue. It was also why he hadn't returned, unable to face his peers. World's strongest. If you could become the world's strongest, you wouldn't seek me. Since you can't become the world's strongest, your everything couldn't match its value, Guan said indifferently. Sage Shen Miao looked troubled, but hope ignited in his heart. The mountain god hadn't refused him. He had only intended to probe, not expecting a real chance. Indeed, no disciple of Three Pure Ones Mountain had ever encountered a land immortal. It showed how rare immortals and gods were. Sage Shen Miao said earnestly, "Please enlighten me, mountain god. As long as it's within my power and doesn't violate the principles of Three Pure Ones Mountain, I will definitely comply." Guan feigned deep contemplation, arms crossed, and after a while he suddenly said, "I have it. The divine skill you used to summon Mystic Heart Realm cultivators before, exchange it with me." Sage Shen Miao's face changed dramatically. His respect for the mountain god deepened. The mountain god could discern even his backer's realm, demonstrating the mountain god's high Dao level. And the battle had taken place far from here. Sage Shen Miao hurriedly said, "This divine skill is called Divine Reaching Mystic Gate. It can only summon others and won't harm beings. I'm willing to exchange it with you, mountain god." As he spoke, he took out a scroll from his sleeve, raising it with both hands. Guan lifted a hand, capturing the scroll. After a brief scan with his divine sense, confirming its authenticity, he waved his right hand. A book swiftly landed before Sage Shen Miao. The 9 Extremes Yin Yang Body. Sage Shen Miao's eyes lit up on seeing those 5 words. Guan would eventually cultivate the 9 Extremes Yin Yang Body, so he didn't mind teaching it. Moreover, this technique originated from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. He wanted to see how many years it would take Sage Shen Miao, with his talent, to master the 9 Extremes Yin Yang Body. Sage Shen Miao picked up the secret book, began reading, while Guan wasn't in a hurry, putting away the Divine Reaching Mystic Gate scroll into his storage bag. After reading for a while, Sage Shen Miao's hands trembled. He suddenly closed the book, tucked it away, and then took out wooden boxes from his storage ring, a total of 7. He said, "This ultimate skill is stronger than Divine Reaching Mystic Gate. I can't take advantage of you. These are seeds of 7th grade heavenly materials and earthly treasures, gifts from various dynasties to me. I intended to use them to enhance my cave, but now I offer them to you. Consider it." Guan's impression of Sage Shen Miao improved. He lifted a hand, the 7 wooden boxes adhering to the tree trunk beside him, saying, "You may leave now." Sage Shen Miao immediately kowtowed, making the fox demon boy kowtow as well, and then led him away without lingering. Guan watched their departing figures, silently lamenting, "What a fateful encounter."